Yeah, whenever we have a link that I can post, like, I can do that.
I believe it just went live. I'm going to log on to my YouTube and make sure that it's streaming. I know Josh, our Nicolas Cage friend, was talking about.
I see a notification from us that we're live.
Yeah. Okay, good. Sweet. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and post that everywhere. And all right, I'm just making sure everybody's on the screen. Yep. Okay, all of us are on the screen. I don't know why I'm bigger than everybody else. I thought this was the.
If you're the host, you'd be bigger. If you're
Okay.
I wonder if I turn this sideways, if I can see everybody. Okay, I can see us better, and it doesn't make me sideways, right?
No, it actually looks better that way.
Perfect.
To see everything. Okay, so here we go. Oh boy. Oh yeah, I forgot. Twitter, you can't post links anymore. You just have to post that you're live.
Really?
If you post links, a friend of mine shared with me, if you post links on Twitter, it'll post, the algorithm will take you as a spammer. And of course,
for any link.
So I'm going to go ahead and post a GIF. I'm sorry about the dogs, guys. You guys know the drill.
It's okay. There's probably going to be screaming cats here, too.
Well, Chris just got home, so he bought me chocolate.
Oh. Did you do makeup?
Me?
Yeah.
I have eyeliner on. That's it.
I thought you had lipstick too.
Oh no, that's just my lips.
Nice.
Okay, I'm gonna post a horror GIF. I'll just
we switch places. Usually I do like 12 pounds of makeup and you have a beanie.
My bangs are kind of growing out, but not quite. So I just did the Scream.
Oh, you have a Scream headband? I wish I could like see you bigger.
Yeah, I bought this from Fear Boutique. It's a small business, and they do like twisties, and they have different kinds though. I'm actually not a big fan of Scream, but I really liked this headband. I have a big head, so their headbands actually fit good.
It is so cute.
We are live now. My dog is screeching, and all right. We are live. I am waiting for, we should be able to see the comments pop up when they do. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm trying to see when people get into the room. I know last time we had trouble with people seeing we were live.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to make sure to post this wherever. And so give it a few minutes and we will get started. Reverie, you did horror haunts, right?
Yeah, it was called Fright Nights at the South Florida Fairgrounds for several years. There was also one, like, this dude had a backyard haunt for like 1 or 2 years that became like a really huge deal in his neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that once or twice when I wasn't doing Fright Nights, but mainly it was called Fright Nights.
So I know I was mentioning before that we were talking about it's interesting because you like more of the modern movies and I like more of the B movies.
Yeah.
And of course we've seen Dylan's B movies.
Yeah.
But it's different because like how is it different acting in a B movie? Like I've only helped with certain props, but I've never actually been able to act in one. Like is that like a unique experience?
Well, since I've never been on like a major studio, I couldn't really compare, you know. But so far for me, it's a lot more fun. It's like being around family, so it's not that hard as you might think it would be. Because everybody's usually, at least the group of people I work with, like Extreme Entertainment, we're really like family there, and everybody treats each other for the most part with respect, and they help each other out. I mean, of course, you're going to have a bad apple once in a while, but not very often. Todd is a really good guy, so he makes it work with everybody. It's pretty cool.
And before we got on there, I mentioned like there are a few viewers here that were wondering like how do they know if like auditions like for like these smaller movies are real versus like just like spammers just like being like, hey, you know.
Yeah, that's a hard one. The biggest red flag that anybody would tell you is they want you to pay for an audition. Never pay for an audition ever. That's the biggest red flag right there. And if you're going at it alone without a manager, it's really going to be follow your gut. You know, if something doesn't feel right, because I've actually turned a couple projects down just because I had a gut feeling like this doesn't feel right. And I'm kind of glad I went with my gut because that project ended up having like 2 or 3 different Indiegogos and then never went off. And I'm like, what's he doing with all this money? So I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I stuck with my gut. It's really hard though. And a lot of the independent people are against the pay for play for like the Indiegogo perks. That's not always necessarily a bad thing for like the really small, quick, hey, I'm here. This is all because that's what a lot of people just want to do is like 15 seconds of screen time and that's it, like getting killed or something. And they want to support a movie at the same time. And those are cool. So it's just it's really hard as far as who's a scammer, who's legit. You just have to do your research. When I get approached for a movie, I will go on their IMDb page. I'll see what kind of stuff they've done. I'll Google their names and see if how they are out there as far as making actual movies go. If I don't see a whole lot on them, I probably won't. I'll probably like think about it before I do anything. It just depends. Really depends. Like Brad Thomason, when he approached me to do Backwoods Bubba, I had never heard of him before. But he saw me in Bonehill Road, and he loves that movie, and he loved my character in it. So at the time, I had a manager, and they researched him. There was nothing bad about him. He's new, and I have no problem working with a brand new filmmaker at all. And so we had drew up a contract, and he was very good. So, and I'm glad I went with that because I had a good feeling about him. That I was like, yeah, I think he's a good guy because he's always nice. You know, I never got a weird vibe from him. So it's just a hard gamble. You just have to go with your gut to see, you know, and just because somebody's done a lot of films doesn't necessarily mean they're a good person either, though. So you just have to do your research on them, Google them, ask people about them. Do you know this person? Have you ever worked with? Because I've done that too. And people either say, oh, he's a really good guy, or they'll be like, no, she's really mean, you know, a lot of people have their opinions, and you just have to go with your gut on it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not easy.
I noticed yeah, like I don't know. For me, I don't think I could ever play somebody that dies. I would always have to play the villain because I have a very stone face, and it's very hard for me to get into that.
Well, like, you know, a lot of the times the villain dies.
Yeah,
and a stone face will help you look deader.
But you know, like, I don't know. I don't think, or I would have to play somebody that's trying to figure out the puzzle. It would be really hard for me to play just, you know, anything else. Because I was talking to a couple friends of mine when we were talking about writing a horror short. And they're like, why don't you put yourself in it? I'm like, I cannot play any of these characters because I'm really bad at switching out of my, like, I will end up starting as the character and then switching back into my own personality. So like, how do you keep in character? Like, I know I personally couldn't do that, but is there like any advice for anybody to be like, hey, like, wait, am I being myself or am I my character? Or?
Well, you want to kind of bring a little, everybody has their own technique. What you do is you just kind of like put yourself, when you read the whole script, and it's good to read the entire script. Some people are very bad about just reading their parts only. And that's, if you do that, you don't really get the whole idea of what your character is, because there'll be parts about your character that other characters would be talking about how you are to in their eyes. So if you sit and read the entire script, you get a lot better idea of how this character is. And then you sit there and you think to yourself, okay, if I was in this person's shoes, which I'm going to be eventually, I'm in this person's shoes, these things are happening around me. How am I going to behave, you know? So you throw yourself into that position, that moment of someone just sliced my arm. How am I going to react to that? You know, I'm not going to just sit there and take it, you know? But if I'm scared shitless, and that's what my character is, I'm just going to be like frozen. Am I going to be frozen to fear? You know, because you got to follow the directors too. So you just kind of have to take on that in moment, kind of like a Meisner effect. I think that's the right word. In that moment, you just have to live that moment of how you would actually react if this really happened to you. I mean, this is happening, so you're going to react. You know, and it's not always easy, but that's how I do it pretty much.
Yeah, I've always like had that question, and nobody was able to actually give me an answer like you have. And it's weird because I've asked people at horror cons too, and I'm like, "How do you do this?" And they're like, "It just happens," and I'm all like, "Okay."
I wish it would just happen, but no, I try to do my very best to study the character, and I will take, like for Bonehill Road, for example. I'll be honest, I've never really, the only werewolf movie I ever watched was The Howling when I was a kid. I never actually watched American Werewolf in London and all that. So my homework was to go and watch all those werewolf movies. And there was another one too that I watched. It was like, I think it took place in like a forest of military people. I forgot the name of it already. But a lot of people liked that one. So I went and I watched as many werewolf movies I could that had this the old school transformation, and especially the American Werewolf in London and all this, and just watching their body movements and and he wanted it to be a very painful transformation. So can you just imagine, you know, you're in a fight and someone is like holding your arm and ripping it out, you're going to be jerking all over the place. So yeah, I just, like I said, I just did a lot of studying of what I could do. Clownado was a lot harder to do because there's not a whole lot to watch. Like, I was a heroine, but not exactly a hero, because my whole character was just trying to get home to my daughter, you know, the stripper with the heart of gold. It was what my persona was supposed to be. So I think that was probably my hardest character. So all my other characters were easier to get into. That one was the hardest one, even though I have kids and I used to be a stripper. So I figure that was the hardest role.
But Bonehill Road was actually the first one that, like, when you first added me on Facebook from the Spooky Babes group, I'm like, "Oh, I recognize her," and I was like, "Oh yeah." That was actually the one that I enjoyed the most because I'm not really a big werewolf person, but I think, like you said, all the movements were pretty well done, and I did know those movies before, and I was like, I wonder if she was inspired by any of that because like that's. I like the older movies being into special effects and stuff like that. I find that more fascinating than a lot of the CGI and all the stuff we use today. I feel like a blended mixture makes a movie great, especially with good acting. You know what I mean?
I actually got to keep some of the props, and I got one with me from Bonehill Road, and that's my face.
Nice.
From when they did the bubbling underneath the skin to make it stretch out and stuff. So this one's not so easy to work because I actually had two of them done. One was done in Kansas City. This is the one from Kansas City. And then I had to go down to LA with Joe Castro, where he did a lot of he molded my face without even me being down there. He did it from a picture, which was amazing that he did that.
Wow.
So yeah, and he was able, because we had trouble, we did some good bubbling, but we had trouble, or I should say the FX people had trouble getting the actual picture that Todd wanted. So Joe Castro stepped up to the plate and said, "Hey, I can help you out," because he's a fantastic FX artist. Like, he does so much. So for him to be on our team was amazing. So he was able to get my chin to go out and stretch out, and he got my fingers just with the fingernails and stuff to go up and grow out, and then my foot did the stretching. And then we did like the stop motion for the hair to grow a little bit. That happened very fast in the movie, so I don't know if anybody actually sees that part.
I did notice it, but it could be because, like I say, I pay attention to that stuff because that's like the stuff that I study and wanted to learn and stuff. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I know, like, my boyfriend was like, I don't see what you mean. I'm like, I see what I mean. And I'm so glad you confirmed that now. I'm like, yeah, it has to be.
Yep. And then the part where we had my underwear rip, and we went through like 3 different pairs of underwear to get that shot. And I don't even know if we actually got the good shot of it, but I think we did finally on the last take. It was supposed to go point.
See, that's the funny thing. Like, people don't think, like, they see just the final product. They don't think of all the things, all the weird things. Like, oh my god, I had to go through so many pairs of underwear for this shot. And it's like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yep. The stop motion was fun. That was kind of cool because I had to sit real still. Like I couldn't even breathe. I had to sit real still for each shot that he took.
Oh my
Otherwise,
god,
it would be too blurry.
See,
But it was
I feel like I would like be moving my leg or anything. Like anytime I could sit still when I don't have to. But if they're like stand still, I'm gonna be like, I'd probably be there for 200 takes.
Oh my god. He has to jump up because I'm not allowed to pick him up yet.
Oh yeah, I hope you heal really fast. I saw you posted that. So
Me too. I just got the MRI, the results from the MRI recently that I had on Tuesday. And I guess I've been put on longer bed rest and I can't pick up anything more than 5 pounds because I guess it's not healing very well. So it sucks.
well, best of healing. That way you can get back to making the movies too.
Yes.
Do you have other projects coming up soon?
Not yet. I've been kind of chilling right now. So I did one audition, but I think I'm gonna wait until I can see what's going on with my back because I don't want to go up for something, get something locked in, and then all of a sudden I have to have surgery, and that would suck so bad.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I've been trying to just avoid it, even though it's really hard because I want to look so bad. But
yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, I know. Like with the lockdown and everything like that, everybody was kind of just like, "Oh no!"
Yes.
Especially in the independent industry, everyone was like, "Oh no, what do we do?" But then I noticed like a lot of really cool and unique virtual. Even horror shorts would pop up on YouTube and people got so creative. And I think like that's where my love of like the more independent side comes from because look at how little these people had to work with and how great like, some of the stuff came. Like, yeah, some of the things can be cheesy, but sometimes like, so what? That might be an actor and actress just starting out, you know? So they might be a little cheesy. So
exactly. Yeah. Everybody's pretty cool. Like, see, we did Final Caller, and we had right before the end of finishing it. That's when COVID hit and locked everybody down. But we were still able to get in and finish it. We just made sure everybody was like in safety stuff and on set, and make sure everybody was where they're supposed to be. And we were able to finish that last bit of the movie. And then Backwards Bubba, we did pretty much the same thing. You know, we just kind of did what we could with small amount of crew and actors, you know, on set. And I think did pretty good because nobody got sick after that I'm aware of anyway. But yeah, it kind of sucked because I had just signed up for a manager or agent that year. So I was all excited and pumped in February that, oh, great, I'm fine. I got signed up. I've got one movie on the way, and that was Backwards Bubba. So I'm like, okay. So it was really hard to find auditions after that. After everything went down to lockdown because nobody wanted to do anything. So I was like, oh man, I picked the wrong year. So, but you know, it happens. You never know. But now I'm just kind of on my own at the moment. I'm gonna wait to see how things go before I try an agent again.
Yeah, I know that I know the guys over at DBS, I think I sent you, they always post auditions and stuff like that, and I posted to Reverie, and normally I keep a lookout because I know you guys are more south than I am. I'm in New York, so up here it is extremely hard to find anything right now. Because
there's a lot of projects going on because I'm on Actors Access, and they actually have a lot of things up there, but you definitely have to make sure you're updated on vaccines and all that stuff because they still do all the protocols because most of them are SAG. So if you're a part of SAG, you have to follow every single protocol there is right now.
Yeah.
So.
That's like it seems a little bit difficult for a lot of my friends up here that are looking for that, but my main focus is the independent stuff too, and like I'm working on one that was inspired by the guy that owned my property in the 1700s. Apparently he was a wackadoodle, I found out. So I'm gonna make a story based on that, but mixed a little fact and fiction. And I think I'm gonna make it a web series and just
cool.
So that's gonna be interesting. It's my first time doing anything like this. I don't think I will play a role in it because I can't act worth crap. What you see is what you get. We're not all made to do that.
Right. It's the one we're talking about, right?
What?
Is that the one we're talking about, or another one?
Yeah, the Curse of Mr. Ives that I posted about for virtual stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
Yep, that's the one that I'm working on. Apparently, he was a wackadoodle and basically ran a cult, and yeah, that's a bit weird to find out about yourself. So yeah, why not roll with it?
You say a labradoodle?
She said wackadoodle. I heard labradoodle too.
Oh, okay.
But I figured it out right after.
That makes sense. I'm sorry.
Sometimes I don't realize how fast I'm talking too. I get really excited to talk about this stuff, so I am very sorry. I could slow down.
Sometimes I hear things and I'm just like, and then I'm like, I look like I'm staring into space because I'm trying to comprehend what you're saying, but I'm just like, oh, that's okay. I do that a lot. Like I always mishear somebody. It sucks. I'm like, because my hearing for some reason goes. I get a lot of ringing noises in my ear, especially since the bike wrecks, and because I hit the pavement hard. Yeah. So now I get a lot of ringing in my ears.
Yeah, definitely. I've had that happen in this year because I went to a Type O Negative concert for my senior year, and I didn't wear earplugs like I should have because I was like, screw it, I'm young and it's Type O Negative. Why would I do that? So I decided to go, and we were like 3 rows away in a very small bar, and it was hilarious because the bar was called Northern Lights, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bar, you go ahead, you have, your music and stuff, and then right next to it was a titty bar. So after your music, you could go see some titties, but right next to the titty bar was a church. So you could pray for all your sins afterwards, and it was all in one spot in a strip mall. It was fantastic, and it was you know what? It was well worth the ear damage in this ear just to be able to see that, because
that's awesome.
The best thing. And I saw the Misfits at the same venue and same year, so I get the same thing. So don't mind me. I understand where you're coming from.
I think I've gotten very lucky because I worked at concerts for Live Nation.
Nice.
And it's now and then I'll get a ringing, but not very often.
My mistake was going to the small venues where they have a really bad sound guy who doesn't know how to equalize it. And I stood right by the speakers because I'm only 5'5". And when I stood by the speakers, that's when all the tall people are like, hey, here's a little short girl. She needs to see. So, that was my mistake. So that's my fault, but totally worth the experience to see that. That was the weirdest strip mall. I don't know who planned that. I don't know who was in charge of that, but it reminded me of the weird small towns in like B movies, because you only see that in like, the werewolf and the vampire movies and stuff. And here this is in real life. And I'm just like, what's going on?
You're taller than me.
What was funny too is that we saw the priest coming out of the titty bar after the concert. So I mean,
of course,
I guess that was gonna be a weird sermon the next morning. I don't know.
11, stop. 11.
But sometimes it's so funny to bump into that kind of stuff, because like it's weird places like that give me like that weird vibe to start creating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And another question that I had written down that somebody sent me, because I know they were going to miss this. They said, how do you memorize your lines? Tips on that, because they're
good question.
That is something I've had to learn how to. When I first started, I was so scared I wasn't going to be able to memorize lines, and it's for me. I have to read them every single day. I have to go over them in my head, and then and for the most part, for the first while, my parts were big, but not like a lot of lines. Like if you notice in Bonehill Road, I didn't have a whole lot of lines.
Yeah.
So that was a little easier to do. Dreaming Purple Neon, I had maybe 1 or 2 lines in that one, and then Clownado was probably my biggest lines after that. Because even in the Muse for High Fear, I still didn't have a whole lot of lines there, but I had some. So my lines were getting gradually bigger each time, so it was easier to, take my time, because I get the scripts like 6 months in advance, so we have time to go over the lines and memorize them. And then when I started doing theater last year, that was a whole new ballpark for me, because we only had like a month and a half, maybe 2 months. But mostly a month and a half to memorize big lines, and those are the biggest lines I've had to date, and I only had such a small amount of time. So my husband was like, why don't you just record everybody else's lines around yours, leave a space for your lines, and then that way when you play it back, you can listen for your cues for when your next line is. So I started doing that. I started start out rehearsing at home doing that, and then I got started working last year. And my husband works overtime, and I don't have overtime, even though we work at the same place. I'm in two different fields. Mm-hmm. So he would go to work at 5:45 in the morning, and I'll stay out in the car because my work will start at 7:45. Mm-hmm. And I would just go over my lines, and I would play it back, and it's rehearse my lines for a good hour and a half while I'm sitting in the car waiting for work to start. So because I had that moment with no distractions around me, because it was so quiet in the parking lot until everybody started coming for work. Yeah. So that's how I do it. That's how I memorize my lines, is I just record back, and it helped so much. It was like a lifesaver for me. And I've told people this when they've asked me how I learn them so fast. I'm like, that's how I do it. I just record everybody else's lines around me. I mean, I don't do like the whole scene. If I'm not in a scene, I don't worry about that one. But I'll do like half a page from where I'm getting ready to come in, so I can listen to cues when I'm backstage. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's how I do it.
That seems pretty smart too, because then it's like more like organic conversation. So when it comes time to doing the filming, you're like, oh, and so like your character is like, bam, there already. So I would have never even thought about that. So that's actually a really smart idea. Yeah. So I hope
it definitely makes it easier, but I have to admit, when you hearing your voice versus hearing the actual people's voice, you still have to click it, because it doesn't always. I do a lot of daydreaming when people are still learning their lines. So even though I have all my lines memorized, I'm just like, oh yeah, my turn.
That's exactly how I would be. Yeah, I've had very, very few lines in the things that I had been in, and Fright Nights is the biggest thing I probably have done besides being an extra in one thing. And like, so that was improv, so that doesn't count for lines. But
it totally counts.
Yeah.
Because when you can't remember a line, and they tell you when you're on stage and it's performance night, there's no redos, right? Like you can't
exactly. This is like high school, but yeah, that's it.
You have to improv. Or as long as it stays along those lines of the conversation, you can improv as long as it makes it smooth. You know what I mean? So improv is definitely good. Still counts.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty impressive thing to be able to do. Except like for a lot of our parts that we had were just screaming, but. But yeah, no, I taught myself the same thing whenever I have had lines, is just memorize what the person right before it says, and then go from there. So I'm happy I feel validated for something I thought I came up with by myself in like high school, and now a professional is saying the same thing.
Same with me. It's funny because like I'm one of those weirdos that talks to themselves all the time. So like I'll switch into different accents. And there was like this school play that we had to do, and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm talking to myself, and it's like the other person's line, but it's a different accent. So I'd just be like this instead, and I knew it wasn't my line, but it would train my brain to be like, okay, after this guy. And then I would just envision that, and I'm like, I didn't realize I was actually doing that either. Or like when I learned how to scream, I would be screaming into a pillow, and people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, you don't want me to remove this pillow right now.
When we did Death by Chocolate, that's what I did. Death by Chocolate was a noir style, but it was it was an updated, like it still took place in today's date, but it was a noir style, and the main character was supposed to talk like Humphrey Bogart and all that stuff, because he's a big fan of Humphrey Bogart and all the old time movies and stuff. So when I did his parts, I would try to make it sound like I was talking kind of like in the noir fashion. And then when I did this guy who was supposed to be a French guy, I tried doing the best, French accent I could so that I could get those lines too. So yeah, I totally feel you.
It's just like funny because everyone's like, oh, why do you do this? I'm like, why do you not do it, Wanda? I mean, I don't know. Everybody's brain is different. Like, I don't know what to say. But I've noticed I know Lloyd Kaufman was sharing our stuff recently.
Yeah.
On Twitter.
Nice.
And I met him years ago from like my 23rd birthday, and he sang happy birthday to me, and he mentioned that he remembered me, and I was like, that is awesome. And that is like
cool.
What I like about the whole independent side too, like you said, it's more like family. And like anybody that's like, I know a couple of my viewers that are like scared to go to their first horror convention and stuff like that. Don't be, because you'll find people, like I've only met 2 people that were really, really rude to me that I was like, I don't care how famous you are, don't give me attitude. You know what I mean? Because to me, everybody's human, you know?
Exactly.
But it's so small. So I always encourage people to go look for the independent people. Like, this is the first time we're having a conversation, you know, and it's like, it's so organic that it's just, you know, this is how it is, guys. Like, it's barely like that. So don't be shy. I know Linnea Quigley and I know I say her name wrong sometimes, but her and I bumped into each other a few times at cons, and I think the first conversation we ever had was about boob sweat because it was really hot in the convention center. And then it was funny because shortly after that, Felicia Rose bumps into me and starts talking about boob sweat. I'm like, why is everybody talking about their titties today?
Because it's hot, I guess.
I have a sign on me that says dog titties. But that's like the fun stuff that happens. And so nobody should really be shy, because I've met so many great people that way. And I'm someone who, if you saw me in real life, I don't speak a word unless I'm spoken to. That's just how I am. I always tell people I'm quiet, not shy. There's a difference, you know, like, because everyone's like, oh, you know, you look so unapproachable. And I'm thinking I'm sitting there like this, but I'm really.
And yet you're here.
Like, all day. That's my face. All day.
You were talking about like some people warning you about like if someone to work with is like mean or not, but then also like I have an example. I had a friend who volunteered at a convention and was telling me that Robert Englund was really mean, but for me, when I met him, he volunteered to make me a video when I said I had no money, and on his like thing it listed like it's usually $100, and he's like, I'll do it for free. Like, I think it's all about somebody's mood and like a lot of circumstances of their day and just the whole spectrum of human emotion. Like, I feel like it's concrete to label just somebody as mean or nice, you know.
Exactly. Like Lou Ferrango, I met him and I didn't have any money to spend, but he's like waving us to come, me and my daughter come and say hi, you know. And I said, I don't have any money. He's like, that's okay, just come up and talk. So we chatted. He was really sweet, like he was so nice. And then later that week, I was like, you know, posting. I don't think we took pictures with him, but I was telling how he was really nice. And then someone was like, well, he was a complete asshole to me. I was like, well, he was really nice to me. So
exactly.
Well, like, too, you got to think conventions all have their different rules and contracts with the people too. And I know for the most part, when I met Tony Todd, he was mad that the convention I went to was making him charge so much just for a picture. So he was kind enough to be like, look, I'm going to the food court soon. If you haven't going to lunch, why don't we snap a picture? And he was really kind about it. And like, you got to understand, like, I mean, like a lot of convention people have to understand, like, these people are there. It's playtime for us when we're the people going, but it's work time for them. So there's also like a lot of fans who are very, very, a little bit too much, I would say too. Like when I go, I try to be like, look, it looks like they're having a bad day. I really like this person. Why don't I see them the next day or a little bit later? Because, you know, I understand, you know, both sides of the coin basically. But I do have to say the only one who was rude all the way around was Christopher Sarandon. He was mean to everybody every day.
Oh, gave me a hug. That was it.
Because my friend wanted to meet him so bad, and he was just sitting there on his iPad, like,
oh my god,
okay, and like throwing his iPad to the poor convention volunteer. This is the pizza I wanted. Make sure it's like, I'm like. I understand bad days, so I was like, okay, maybe the first day was a bad day, but then we went again and it was the same thing, and I was like, dude, if you didn't want to do this, then don't. Like, it's okay. Like, I get it. You've been in the game so long. Maybe you don't want to do meet and greets anymore. I get it. Like, and that's fine. There's some people that actually don't like doing conventions, and sometimes I feel like maybe their agents or management pushes them to do it.
Oh yeah.
But it
Yeah,
ruins
yeah.
it ruins the experience, I think, for both, because there are good fans out there that want to generally talk and just meet like we are doing now. But then you get the crazed ones that have this so high view of you that is like, oh my God, you're supposed to be like this. Like Reverie said with Robert there. He's a gentleman. I've never had any issue, but again, I understand him having bad days too, though, because there's a lot of, I hate to say this, but there's a lot of weirdos obsessed with that man, and if he doesn't live up to the expectation that they have in their head, oh my God, they go completely crazy.
Yeah, far be it for him to be human, right?
Exactly.
That's the thing. Like, we're all human. It's just some have really neat jobs, you know, and that's the thing. And like I met Linda Blair, and at first I thought she was rude, but then I realized she was having one of those bad days because people were being obnoxious because she always had her bucket there for PETA and stuff like that. And you know, some people take that stuff like, oh, please don't mix your views, blah 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 blah. So there's people like that, and I'm like, I really don't care. Like, you know, like, let her do her thing. Like, she's passionate about it. Why not? She's not telling you to donate.
Right.
You know?
I mean, you get to say you had a conversation with her too. Like, you know, I'm having a brain fart with some certain names. But the guy who played Batman on the original TV series,
Michael Keaton, was it?
No, the original series with Batman.
Adam West.
Oh yeah.
But the guy who
you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know
brain fart.
I forgot his name though, but I know who you're talking about.
I feel bad, but because I used to watch it. I watch it all the time even now, so I feel really bad. It's not Adam West. It was the guy who played Robin. Sorry, I don't know why I said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my bad. But he was at a convention, and we went up and talked, and we didn't have any extra money, you know. But he just sat there, and he talked to us like a good 20-30 minutes. His handler kept trying to tell him to stop talking, but he just had a good conversation with us. He was talking about the dog food that he promotes, you know, and how much healthier it is for dogs and all, because he's very passionate about animals. So we sat there and we just listened to him, no problem. Like, he was really nice, you know. And I just thought it was hilarious that like I said, the handler was like, you know, you got people behind waiting. He goes, well, just a minute.
You know, it was funny because Marilyn Burns from the original Chainsaw Massacre movie, I met her. I was wearing this spiked collar, and it kind of looked like something she had in a different film. She showed me the picture, and I sat with her for about 2 hours, and her handler was saying the same thing. Oh, hurry up. And she's like, there's no line right now. I'm going to talk to this girl. And we had a really good discussion, and she was talking about how it was so cool to see like younger people coming up and seeing the older generation and how everything's morphing and stuff like that. And I'm so happy that I got a chance to speak with her before she passed away, because like, she made me feel more comfortable like getting into everything as well. And that's another thing I urge people to go to these conventions, because you might be nervous, but then you can talk to people. And
it's amazing how nice everybody usually is. Like I didn't know that Tara Reid was going to be at one of the conventions I went to, and I had already spent money with my daughter that day, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know Tara Reid was going to be here because I didn't see her in the lineup. But I went up and said, I don't have any money, but I really wanted to say hi. She was, that's okay, we'll just chat a little bit. And she was super, super, super sweet. So you just never know who you're going to meet out there.
And like I think also I said there was two that were the chick that did the original Blair Witch Project was very, very rude on all 3 days as well.
Oh, wow.
And I think her name's Heather Donahue. I don't know. I'm not the only one that had that experience. I personally wanted to talk to her because I'm not a big fan of found footage, but I found it interesting on how they did it back then, you know, because they made it seem so real and everything like that. And I know I was a little kid when the original came out, but still, it was like, I remember seeing it and I'm like, wow, that's weird. You know, that looks like my woods. I want to go do this. You know, most kids are out there playing with Barbies. I was out there playing Blair Witch Project in my backyard. So
little squid dolls instead of Barbies.
She kept acting as if I was trying to steal her idea, and I was like, absolutely not. I was just trying to learn from you, and I absolutely never steal anybody's idea. You know, so like, you know, those are the only two I would say were definite. I know I have an old video on the channel where I was talking about Linda Blair being rude. But now that I'm like older and I think about it and I look back, I'm like, I could kind of see why she was rude that day because of the people being rude first. And I know if I was a person sitting there, I'm here trying to talk to people that enjoy my work or even want to sit at my panel. And of course, she's passionate about PETA. That's fine.
Right.
Not telling you, she doesn't have she's not telling you that, oh, you have to donate or you can't talk to me. Hi, Sean. So you got a comment. And
is it my Sean?
No.
Oh.
And
yeah, I was wondering if anyone was watching. I was wondering if there was any comments or something.
Yeah, we got viewers, but not a lot of comments. I think people are actually listening to what we're saying, which is also a good thing. I take that as a good thing. So
where do you see viewers, or do I not? Only you can see it.
I have it in my studio. On this side, it says 2 right now, but it was up more. It keeps fluctuating back and forth. So
okay. Have we posted this?
I have posted it everywhere, but I also know that the viewer counts I don't really go by because it's like sometimes people are like, oh wow, I actually watched that and it didn't show up that they were viewing. So
yeah, that's happened to me on other platforms.
It's been really weird lately. But now that I look back at her, I kind of regret making that video. Like, oh my god, yeah, she was rude. But it's like, you know what? I would probably told everybody to go stuff yourself too after dealing with all that, And it's
another great experience I had with another actor was Nichelle Nichols. Oh, that woman was so sweet before she passed.
Mm-hmm.
On the convention I went to, the first day I went, I actually dressed up in my Star Trek stuff and did my hair up in the original style as best as I could. And my costume was kind of based off of the Mirror Mirror type episode. So it was sexy, kind of like the way they did theirs. Yeah. And I went to meet her and she loved my whole getup. And I took, paid for the pictures, and paid for her autograph. And she was so sweet. And then the next day I had on this, I don't know what I was thinking for my costume, but I was working in one of the booths for Lyle Miller. I was doing the chainmail that day. And I put on this white outfit and the green makeup, trying to do like an Orion slave girl, but I just had my blonde hair. It looked terrible. I should have put a red wig on. But either way. I didn't. But my daughter came in that day and I said, oh, we got to go meet Nichelle. She's so sweet. So we went over to her table and I said, hi, you probably don't remember me, but I was in the Star Trek uniform yesterday. We took pictures with you and stuff. And my daughter came up and I just wanted to bring her over so she can say hi and meet you. She says, oh, well, come here. And she shook her head, told her to sit down next to her. And she goes, would you guys like a picture together? And I said, oh, well, we don't have any money today. She goes, that's okay. And, she told the lady to go get our picture for us. So she goes over, takes our picture together, and then she starts to charge us. And Nicole was like, I said this was free. Yeah. It did that in such a stern voice. Oh. She was the sweetest person in the world. I'm like, oh, I love her so much. Like she made our day. Yeah. She was so nice.
What was the other one? I forgot. Butch Patrick is also like that.
I heard something cool, yeah.
Like I was talking to him because like growing up, my dad had like a junkyard and stuff like that, so I was always around like the older cars and stuff like that. And he makes like Butch was showing me all the different keys he makes. Like they have like gravestones and stuff that you can get custom for your car and stuff. So I was like, that's really neat. And he sat there and he talked to me for like an hour and a half, I think. And everybody, of course, people were gathering around. It wasn't like I was the only one taking up space. And the handlers were just like, oh, you gotta stop this. And he's like, these are people that just want to talk. Like, obviously if there was somebody that, had like either a paid VIP or something like that, of course they would go first. But he was not busy and we happened to have a talk with him. Doug Bradley was another one that was really nice.
Yeah, he's really super sweet.
He not only that, but he was like so deep into like really passionate about what he does, which I loved to see because a lot of times when you ask questions too, you get the generic answer from some of them, and he was all like, oh no, this is how the makeup went, and this is how this went, and the way that man went into the technical stuff.
Nice. That's awesome.
So interesting. And he's like, oh, it's your birthday. I'm like, yes, because the convention that came around used to be for my birthday. So that was my tradition at the time. And unfortunately, this one went down after COVID. It hasn't come back. And him and I think it was his wife or lady. I don't want to assume. So if anybody sees this, I'm not assuming. Like, you know, I'm just saying. But it seemed like it was his partner or whatever. They were involved too. It was like, oh yeah, let's talk. Let's share this, share that. And so it's so good to see like that more family setting to where like that's why I love watching all that cheesy stuff. People call it cheesy, but the channel, my channel here was based on mainly reviewing the independent side, just because for me the Hollywood side gets really boring.
Talking about cheese like it's a bad thing.
And here lately they've just been doing remakes of a lot of stuff anymore. It's like, man.
And like I noticed they're coming out with another Conjuring. And the last one,
a show
for heart pills.
A show.
Oh, do they need a Ouija board to talk to the Warrens now to get them to do, like, what are they going to do? Like, at some point, it just has to be, like, enough's enough. Yeah. And why are they all tinted blue? Like, okay, I'm not going to lie. The other day, I watched a 2002 movie, a horror movie, and I was so relieved that it wasn't tinted blue that I sat there and was like, whoa, I can actually see the monsters. I can actually see, like, and the actors and actresses, they're not tinted. Why are they all tinted blue? Like,
that's weird.
I'm wondering if it maybe could be for, like, the visual effects. Like, maybe it's easier for editing, like, monsters and stuff in. I'm not too sure.
Or maybe it's supposed to evoke certain emotion. I feel like I might have heard something about this the other day.
But for me, as a viewer, it kind of takes it away. Like, certain ones I could see why they're blue, but when every single one of them is blue, I'm just like, is this the Blue Man Group making these movies? What is going on? Like, certain, like, werewolf movies can do it because it's the moon and it's dark and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit of paranormal stuff, but when it gets to, like, other things, it's just like, like the slashers don't need to be blue. I'm sorry. Right. Show us some wood. They don't need to be blue. Yeah. It just gets a little bit too much, but I don't know, maybe it's visual new digital stuff, maybe. I don't know. I'm more old school, so I'm not, if anybody knows, and if you watch the replay of this and you know, and you can answer any of our questions, please feel free to do so in the comments. But I noticed that when I watched the non-blue movies, I was like, wow, you can actually see more of the emotion on the actresses' faces and the actors' faces, and you can see the characters more. And it was like more like you were brought into the story versus the modern movies, which are all just blue, and like.
I feel like they put in so much to the set design and whatnot, only to make the lighting so dark. It's like a lot of it was probably a waste, and I feel bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing I noticed too. Like, I don't know. That's why, like, I don't know if like the modern ones. They also, I feel like the scripts lack in the Hollywood versions too. Like, I feel like if they got a couple big names, they just pop them in there and they know people are gonna watch. And then, like, versus the scripts that you've worked with and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, they're a little bit, they're not too much, but you don't need it for the types of movies they are. It's just the right amount. Oops, sorry about that. Right amount, versus just like shove a big name in there, people are gonna watch it, and then don't put anything into the script and the actors and actresses, and you know what I mean? It's
Nicolas Cage didn't say a word in Willy's Wonderland, did he?
Huh?
No, he didn't. Not one word.
I didn't think so.
Yep. Not one word. It was probably about his best performance.
Wait, I'm not a big Nick Cage fan either. That's why it's an inside joke when, like, our college called it. It's just like, I don't know. I'm just not a fan.
I love Nicolas Cage. I'm one of those ones who really, I love watching his movies. I just love his over the top acting. But it was so funny because when me and my husband watched that one, and after it was done, my husband was like, that's probably about his best acting he's ever done. I started laughing. I'm like, that's mean.
I have heard that's like a good acting challenge, though, to just evoke the emotion through your face and not have to say anything. Did anybody see Renfield yet besides me?
I have not seen it yet.
I'm obsessed, but he's actually not in it that much. But when he is, he's not really trying to be funny or anything. He's just like a pretty normal villain. I'm trying to find like a non-insulting word. I'm not trying to say basic, because it's Nicolas Cage. How that's like, no matter what it is, it's pretty far from basic. But but yeah, no, because my friend was like, should I see it? I don't like Nicolas Cage. Like, yeah, you should definitely see it, because it's still really funny, and he's not in it that much, and he's just Dracula, and he's just doing a general portrayal of Dracula, and you know what you're expecting out of Dracula.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That kind of makes me look forward to it a little more.
You should. And
here, actually, because I was a bit nervous. I saw him in the makeup, and I was like, do I want to see a goofy Dracula? Is this going to be a comedy? Like,
the movie is a comedy, but he's actually pretty serious.
See, I'm anxious to see Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, yeah.
But
so hyped.
The movie theaters are so price gouging right now that I'm like, should I just wait for it to stream and pay that?
We've been doing that a lot. Like, we've been waiting for it to go to streaming, just because, you know, the economy being so tight right now, and the prices at the store doubling in prices is just like, so I think we went to the movies. We did go to it recently. Can't remember what it was we saw. We saw some action. It was an action film, actually. I can't remember the name of it now. It was actually pretty good. Dang it. But I can't remember the name of it. But it's one I hadn't really seen advertised at all on TV, so it's not going to stick in my head, of course. Right. But it was actually pretty good. I was actually surprised at how well it was. Man, I wish I could remember the name of it, or who was in it. God. These brain farts I get during the interviews are just incredible. I'm just going to start writing names down.
It's going to be nice.
I am like super chill. Like, all of this, like, half the time I wing these live streams. I am not going to lie. I'm all like, you know what? Let's invite people on. Let's just talk and have it just be a conversation. And that's what people seem to like more than if we're sitting here scripted every single time. I get compliments on it. So don't ever feel like nervous around me or anything like that, because we're just here having a conversation.
I'm a little high.
Who?
I'm a little high.
Oh, no worries. One of the characters, the actors that was in it, was the one who was in Mel Brooks' Robin Hood and The Princess Bride.
Cary Elwes?
Yeah, he's in that. He was in the movie that we watched. And it was funny because my daughter didn't recognize him. I go, as you wish. And she's like, oh, that's him? I was like, yeah. My husband didn't even realize that was him to the very end when I said something. He's Robin Hood from Robin Hood Men in Tights. He goes, oh, that's what I thought I recognized him from.
I mostly know him from Saw.
Oh, I haven't seen any of the Saw movies.
Wow.
I watched one because I feel like that was all that was needed. Any of the sequels,
They got better. They got better.
Did they?
Yeah. How do you know?
I don't know. I would just be like, look, you guys already know this guy's gonna play a game. Why do you need 20,000 of them? That's like I feel like okay, as much as I love the Halloween franchise, I think it went on too long too. Like, there's just so many things you can do with it, and I feel like what happens is they just maybe do a trilogy. I can understand doing a trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay. But anything past that is kind of like, okay.
I'm not saying all the sequels got better, but for I like 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
4 opened up with a whole autopsy of Jigsaw.
See, like, I am more like, I've watched every single silent horror film because my grandmother, when she was around, when we were kids, she wouldn't let me watch other horror movies. I did anyway. But she remembered all the times when the horror movies were coming in the silent theater. So she would be in the living room and she'd be like, watch this with me. But she would narrate it and it's freaking hilarious. She's a little German lady, right? So whenever she sees a woman and she's not acting right, she goes, hoochie poochie over there is about to go after this monster over here. Like, her talking about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from the 1920s. I wish I could have recorded that back in the day and oh my God, it was hilarious.
I bet like, that was.
I get so into like the music that they used for those films and the expressions. Like, so I'm more into like the films that use more expression, and that's probably why I did notice the stop motion, like you said, because like I'm more into like, okay, what are they doing instead of just, hi, I'm gonna get killed now, boom. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I feel like Hollywood movies are to me. It's kind of just like, okay, boom. You know, like, you know, I like the cheese. Like, you know, there's some really bad independent films that I saw that I was like, why do they even put it out there? But then it's like, you know what? They are doing it. They're getting better. If you put a movie out, you get creative criticism. You can learn from it, and it's better than not doing anything.
Yeah, okay? Exactly.
And it doesn't matter, because even if the people are going to make YouTube reviews shitting on it, you're still getting attention.
Yeah,
so it's like, you know, it's a win-win. You can learn from it, or you can let it take you down. But I hope everybody out there, and any independent person that I've reviewed your film and I was probably like, whoa, this is awful. No, it's from the heart, because I want you to get better. I am rooting for you. I want you to like be able to do awesome things and put out casting calls for my friends here and all this kind of stuff. Like, I want you to get better. I don't do it to be like, I know like some reviewers do it to be assholes, but you know, like we said, there's bad eggs in everybody. But like, you know, I love seeing the independent people grow and seeing even the independent actors and actresses grow.
Yeah.
Because it is difficult. I don't think people realize how physical it can be too. Because you're not just, it's not a school play where you're just dressing up and reciting the lines either. Like, you know, you mentioned the movements and, you know, the different takes and stuff like that. I don't think people comprehend that, they're doing a rough job there. So like when they over criticize the actor or actress, it's kind of like, do you guys know how many takes? That could have been their 200th take.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes.
You know, like,
and the things that have happened in my body just from trying to act like looking upset on the outside, but I can get, my head will go super tense. I can like overheat myself. I'll get myself sick just trying to seem super upset. So it's very physical, even if you're just standing there trying to talk really loud or something. Also, I was wondering, did I disappear a few minutes ago? Because I went to try to share. Okay, I went to try to share this, and it sucked me out of it. So I didn't end up sharing it because I was like, I don't want to disappear.
No, you don't disappear. Okay.
I'm gonna go try to share it then.
Okay.
Wait, is it just the regular link on top of our StreamYard, or is there a separate thing for people to watch? Because isn't this on like YouTube or something?
Yeah, it's streaming to YouTube.
Okay, so we should probably put the YouTube link, I think.
Yeah. We are streaming to YouTube right now, yeah.
Can you put the link in the chat?
Hold on. Oh, I don't know where I went. Now I went everywhere. Hold on. I'll try to do it on my phone.
Okay, tell me when.
But here, I'm gonna send it. I don't. There, I sent you the link to your Facebook.
On Messenger. Okay.
I won't let me send it on the StreamYard thing without me closing out here on my phone, and I don't want to mess that up now that we're here.
That's what I'm doing.
But I know, like, a lot of people, when they see, like, the actors and actresses, too, like, they don't realize going into makeup how long that takes and having to deal with people all up in your space all day. I know that's one thing that would get me. Like, is that, like, anything, like, does it make you claustrophobic sometimes when they got to be all up?
Not for me. It wasn't really claustrophobic. It was funny. The first time we did the bubbling underneath the prosthetic skin, they did it with little straws. So I had two people on this side and two people on this side with little straws and up there and just blowing on my face. And I actually have a picture of that I could reshare after we're done. And but it was hilarious. And then I think the most intense though of makeup was when I was down with Joe Castro down in LA when he put all the prosthetics on my face. And man, that took I think almost 3 hours to get the makeup on. And then I think it took like an hour and a half to get it off.
Like,
but it was pretty interesting because his bubbling was different because he had a prop thing that he used for the patches.
Versus like all the people over there being like, hey, you know? I think that would be awkward for me too. But
I think he mixed both takes together. So it's kind of neat. But yeah, it's funny how long some of these things they take forever.
Yeah, I have the allergy throat too here. I'm trying not to cough this whole stream, so I'm like, it's just allergies, everybody.
Yeah, the medication I'm on keeps drying my mouth out.
Well, yeah, especially healing up too and all that. Let me see if I can bring her back. There she is.
I knew I was going to disappear once I shared that. But it's shared now. We're good.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people realize too is like there's a safe way to pull the makeup off too. I cringe when I see like people just like ripping stuff off. I'm like, don't, your skin, like your skin, like no, don't do that, don't do that.
The spirit gum.
The glue that he used, he told me specifically before he started that it was going to take a special liquid to take it off and that it would take a while to get off. And he wasn't kidding. Like, this was not something you just rip off because it would take your skin too. I don't remember what the glue was called, but it worked very well.
I bet it was spirit gum.
Yeah, I know
it wasn't spirit
gum.
gum.
Remover.
Yeah. It wasn't spirit gum, but I don't remember what it's called. It was some fancy name that he used for it. But
okay.
I was like, wow.
But yeah, and I think like because I did a zombie makeup for a girl who was doing a haunted house, and they needed something that would last long and not just the generic body paint. So it was more in depth, and I had to use adhesives and removers and stuff, and she got mad at me. She got mad at me because like she had to sit in the chair. Going on was fine, but I told her the same thing like he told you, you know, we have to remove this safely, you know, you don't want any skin issues, stuff like that. You know, she got so mad, she got up and she ripped it off.
Oh,
right? Ripped it off. Now, this stuff was so sticky that if you don't use the remover, yeah, it's going to cause lesions. She got mad at me. I'm not the one that ripped them off her face. Luckily I had a witness there, so I couldn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
She couldn't turn around and say it on me because I had my mentor there with me.
Right.
And my mentor's just over there at her desk, and she's just looking at me and like she's in shock because she's like, "What just happened?" And I was like, "Did that just happen?" And she's like, "Yeah, that just happened." And I'm just like,
God.
And it was like giant wounds. Like I'm talking like full cheek, and it
wow.
was jaw missing. Yeah. I have a picture of it somewhere that I'll probably have to share after too. It was a really good, in my first in-depth makeup that I had to do on somebody else. I was so used to doing it on me. So I was nervous, right? And this is my first client in a makeup chair, right? And of course it has to be a psycho. And, you know,
a real one.
I'm already nervous too because like we were both being in a haunted house. Like in my makeup, my eyeball was ripped out and I had the brains in my hand, and the guy before me had his head ripped open, and I was chewing gum the whole night. Now I have TMJ, totally worth it. I was chewing gum the whole night for 12 hours because I had to pretend to be, you know, eating the brains, and so bring out the gum and stuff like that. But like it was really cool, so I helped do makeup as well for that. And to see her rip that off. Like her cheeks were bleeding and they were rashes. She's like, "It's your fault. You guys didn't tell me." I'm like, "We've sat here we gave you a sheet. We told you what we were using on your face. We told you removal process is going to be at least an hour and a half to 2 hours."
She just didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
And she got mad because she had a date on her phone that she was going to be late for. Poor planning on your part is not my problem. Okay? So I mean, you know, she was like rude, and I'm like, you know what? This is my first person in my makeup chair, and my mentor's like, "I hope this doesn't discourage you." I'm like, "Oh no, it just leads to like a great time and to remember, like, man, you remember when that girl went completely psycho and ripped off her zombie makeup, and ended up making her face look like the makeup unintentionally.
Oh
You know, like I told her, I was like, you need to clean that and you need to get checked out because it looked like she was like, oh, it was awful. Like, I'm like, why on earth would you sign up to do something and not want it done properly? And I think social media has hurt that a little bit because they see so many of the makeup gurus just peel it off, but what they don't realize is it's already off. They're just doing it for the cut. You know what I'm saying? So like they feel like they could just do that, but because of all like the jump cuts on TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that, they don't realize it's an edited final product you're watching. So anybody watching this that does special effects, let the makeup artist take off your stuff. And if you're doing it at home, research how to remove it safely. Even latex, please remove it safely.
The first time I used spirit gum was like 2 Halloweens ago. I put on devil horns, and I didn't know anything about, removal because I didn't see anything around at that time for like spirit gum removal or anything like that. But I had enough common sense to know if it wasn't going to pull off right away, I just left it until the next day when it loosened.
Sounds like me.
That's better than trying to rip it off your head.
Yeah.
Like,
Where my dumb ass, I had it back on my hairline, not
oh no.
Oh God.
I thought that was my little baby hair.
I was like,
Oh yeah.
a little bit here, like, oh goodness. Well, that was my own fault. So. But it
again,
looked great.
You were smart enough not to just go psycho and rip it off. So that's props. Like it does loosen up the next day. But it's just
If I'd have done that, I had a big bald spot. I probably wouldn't have my bangs grown.
Oh my God. I know we get so into doing the makeup ourselves. Like sometimes I would forget too. So like I started wearing headbands when I did makeup on myself, so I can remember. Oh wait, that's where my hairline is because
Good call.
The reason I even had to shave my sides is because the makeup gone wrong. And I couldn't get the zombie latex out of my hair because I didn't realize it was in my baby hairs. But then I dropped it when I was doing it. I was doing it so quickly for this photo shoot I was doing that I didn't pay attention. And luckily it only got on my bottom half, so I had to just buzz my sides and now they're growing in. But everyone's like, oh, you did a trendy haircut. I'm like, no, I got latex in my hair, and it would bother me if one side was shaved and one side wasn't.
Yeah.
So,
I'm the one that got the haircut on purpose.
it's just the other thing too is like everyone picks on that horror movie trope where everybody like trips falls when they scream or whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, that is like a staple of all cheesy horror movies, and I would feel like if they didn't do that, people would complain even more. Like, if they didn't have the scream queen doing that.
The ones that I like that I've noticed that they have started to do here recently was when someone trips, you think they're doing the whole, oh my gosh, here we go. There's another girl tripping, right? But then she actually does something with her feet and it actually looks like she has a chance to get away. And there's an actual drama going on with him or her chasing the girl or the guy. And I'm just like, but then you actually see the girl fighting and she puts on a good fight. Even though she loses in the end, she still puts on a good fight. It's not over so quick. And I love those.
Yeah, I feel like it's more realistic. I feel it's less realistic for somebody to just fall and then just wait there. Because, like, in those scenes, they're falling and they're waiting, and the guy is walking. So you can't tell you can't at least crawl a little bit before something happens. Like, to me, human nature is vicious. So, of course, you're going to want to fight back first. And like you said, even though they lose or whatever, that fight, and I think that is more compelling into the story, too, especially with this creature or something, man versus beast here. I don't remember. Chris and I watched one movie. We stumbled upon it on Tubi. I love using Tubi because that's where all the weird crap is. And it was a very interesting movie where, like, actually, like, this little girl outsmarted a monster. And it was so interesting because it was like, oh, wow, what would I have done if I was a little kid? And actually got you thinking. So, and the thing is, the visuals were dumb as hell. Like, you could tell it was cheaply done.
Right.
But the story and the way that they portrayed it made up for how bad it looked. So you were like, wow, that was actually very, very good because you're watching this little girl and she's carrying her little teddy bear everywhere. I wish I could remember the name too.
I want to know if we find out.
I will. But like she's carrying this teddy bear and she's with her mom at first, but then her mom gets eaten by the monster. So now the kid has to outsmart the monster. And there, of course, they broke down on the side of the road and you're like, oh, here we go, you know, same thing. But no, it's actually this little kid. Like, wait, would we be able to survive that as a little kid? I don't know. Like it was crazy to see, like how interesting that they portrayed this from a child's eyes. And it's interesting because it flickers from the young girl. The child is about 9 or 10, so it's not super little, but it's not like old either. But how they did it with the camera is like it's mainly from her point of view that you're seeing stuff, and then you see her scurry and doing things and like all these traps and stuff. I'm like, this is really cool. Like, what is going on here?
Home Alone in the Woods.
That's what I was thinking.
So different because you got to think kids have more imagination, right? So of course they're going to come up with the craziest stuff to kill this monster. Whereas adults, we're just like, oh, damn, blah, 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 you know what I mean? But she's over there like living her best life over there, holding her little teddy bear, and I'm just like, you know what? The monster looked like crap because it was so digital from like they over saturated it or little pixels, which drives me nuts. The monster looked bad, but because they did such a good job doing this, and I think that is what made that film, because without the good script and without the good acting, I don't think I would have been able to sit through it.
Right.
Like for some reason I sat through Titanic 6 or whatever the heck it was. I didn't even know they made 6 of them, but apparently they did.
I thought you were exaggerating.
No.
Yeah. Wow.
No. It's on. There's some on Tubi. It's weird. It's
what else could happen?
I don't recommend it.
I wasn't gonna.
I don't recommend. I put it on.
I'm just fascinated.
But I have a feeling that they all end up like the Amityville horror movies.
Yeah,
that's how I feel like it's gonna take.
Well, basically, it's all the same premise that they rebuild the Titanic and they resail it, and of course it sinks at the same time.
Again.
And it's really bad helicopter CGI, and it looks like toy soldiers being marched around. It's not even good stuff. It's so bad. It is so, and I put it on there, and I was like, I usually have an open mind when it comes to films, but this is
a bit much.
Bad. Like the Amityville horror, that's another one I think that could have done with 2 or at least a trilogy, and then cut it out. Now there's like even the B-movie side of it's like the Amityville Terror or the Amityville. It's like we get it.
I think my favorite latest one was Amityville in Space.
Oh, yeah. They always end up in space when they run out of ideas. You notice that? Like kind of like Chris was watching the Fast and Furious movies, and like they always end up in space. I'm like,
bro, poltergeists can't really throw shit in space.
It's just it's crazy.
Yeah.
But like I can understand like taking inspiration from a film, but having to like rehash that. Like, okay, if you want to take, I really like the idea of Amityville, so why don't we take a little bit from that and then a little bit from here and make it its own thing?
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. More original stuff, even if it's not 100% original, as opposed to constant sequels. Please, for the love of every deity. Now,
I don't know if either of you saw this, but the found footage trilogy that I actually liked was Hell House LLC, because it's really, really good.
I think so. I think I've seen that one. And I think that was because they actually had demonic stuff going on in the house, and they actually showed some of that versus the camera thinks they're seeing something, they drop the camera or whatever, and then you don't see nothing but feet shuffling.
No, they saw like the clowns moving forward, and they thought they were the mannequin stuff, and that was so well done. And that's how found footage should be, though.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot of it that it's such a great concept, but like a lot of it falls short because I think, I could just, pretend it's from my cell phone camera. I don't have to put in the effort into making it look real. No, it's still a movie production. But with that one, I liked the twists too. Like, it wasn't just so like, oh, you know, I know this scare is going to happen. Oh, I know this is going to happen. No, they were really smart about it. And I noticed on Facebook that they're going to put the origins of the hotel. So I'm actually looking forward to that because we didn't get the whole story in that trilogy. But that one I could understand going back and doing a prequel. Mm-hmm. But if they end up doing like a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm going to be like, no. You finished it in 3. The angel came down. You finished it in 3. It's done. You know, it's like.
I think the only one I could get a pass on that are the Star Wars franchise.
Oh, God.
And that's because of all the books they have that you can actually do that with.
Yeah. But see, again, that's like absolutely different because, like you said, a lot of books. But to do it for a possession movie, it's like you closed it in the 3rd one. Please don't make a 4, 5, and 6 because we only really need that prequel, you know? But
a lot of them, like, it could just be its own thing because it'll have nothing to do with the original movie anymore at that point. So just call it a different name and different franchise, and it's the same thing. It just makes you look less embarrassing to keep doing your sequels that nobody wants.
Yeah.
Just say it's another thing when it's actually another thing anyway.
Like, that's what I feel like they did with Friday the 13th and all the big ones. It's just like, we get it.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with the classic versions because there's only so much you can do with slasher films. Like, okay, how many times is this guy going to come back? That's like Halloween. I only really like Halloween so much because I'm a music nerd and I'm a fan of John Carpenter's music. I think he does a great job of mixing it with the films.
Some good shit.
But it got to the point where I was just like, either Laurie has to die or Michael has to die. And when they
or a whole new Michael has to come, apparently.
Look how old Laurie Strode is getting.
Yeah.
You can't tell me Michael is functioning enough to go after her anymore. We are
he's at this point.
In the golden years of Halloween, I was expecting them to show the old folks home, and you know, it has to come to a point where it's like you either defeat the evil or you don't, and it carries on. You know what I mean? So like I see like they're trying to bring back Michael even after Halloween ends, and I'm like,
yep, exactly.
Why? Okay, fine. If she didn't defeat the evil, then like leave it at that, but don't call it Halloween Ends. Like it needs to. It needs to, I feel like.
And you know it's not gonna end anyway. Like saw the final chapter and then they came back. It's just like, embarrassing themselves.
We're just kidding. That wasn't it. We're just
kidding.
Just kidding. So someone is asking us what is a film that we wish we could have acted in.
We wish we could have acted in.
That's hard to think about.
Well, I would have to say Nightmare on Elm Street.
We're live.
Hi, live. Yeah, I just walked in to see this. So that was fun.
Did I look ominous from behind with my hood?
You did. I'm not going to lie. I could not find any interesting meatballs, unfortunately.
Okay. I forgot about my request for interesting meatballs.
Denied.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah.
But so Nightmare on Elm Street seemed like that would be an interesting one to be a part of.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the internet has asked me what film I wish I could have acted in. All 3 of us.
Oh.
I thought about Repo. I thought when I heard a door coming in, it was going to be Sean, and he was going to make fun of me if I said Repo.
See, for me,
there's nothing wrong with Repo. That's not an opinion. That's a fact.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
I had the name in my head. It was a Mel Brooks vampire movie that he did.
It's familiar.
I just had it. I just had the title.
Yeah. The spoof of Dracula, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my
Young Frank. No.
Nope, Young Frankenstein's
It's about Frankenstein's monster, not Dracula.
Is it Dead and Loving It?
That's what I just thought. Dead and Loving It.
It has to be. I think
that's it.
Yeah,
Dead
I have
and
it on
Loving
DVD.
Yep. I think that would have been fun. And the way he went overboard with all the blood when he was killing her, it was like splash, 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 just had me dying. I think that would have been fun to work on because I think Mel Brooks is a freaking genius in his movie.
I think it's hilarious because it's enough like humor for everybody, and the way that he does everything, like especially Frankenstein, I had to laugh because my grandma has that accent. So I had to I'm like, oh my god, it's like I'm talking to my grandmother, and like she's sitting there with the frau over there, and like, yeah, that's. But for me, it's difficult to know what movie I would act in because, like I said, I'm not really a good actor. But I would have to say, if I had to be involved with something, it would have to be An American Werewolf in London. Because if I had the chance to work with Rick Baker and any of those guys, that would have been fantastic to learn from. So
I would have been a good Silent Hill nurse, and I just had something else before that.
I'd want to be in Monty Python.
Monty Python.
Anything Monty Python. I don't even care what. I want to meet Eric Idle. That's what this boils down to. I want to meet Eric Idle.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I would have been a good Saw victim.
Oh yeah.
See, I could not play a victim. I wish I could though.
Oh my god, that's my expertise.
Okay, if you could pick between being in a saw trap or being one of the people that goes, Zydrate comes in a little glass vial, which one would it be?
I would say Saw Trap. That would put a lot more attention on me than like a little background singing thing, which I did at a Shadowcast
okay, but
anyway.
If you were the Zydrate dealer,
I don't want to replace Terrence Zudnik.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I think you would be good in that role though.
As a grave robber? I mean, when I put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you would be.
It does sound pretty me.
How much of this do I need?
I would have wanted like a whole new character for myself. That's my thing. I don't know.
This isn't doing anything.
Why are you taking off that nail polish we did last night?
And then we have one that says, who is your favorite person to meet and your least favorite person to meet?
Kevin.
The internet doesn't know who Kevin is.
Damn it. Good. I mean, good.
It's my ex-boyfriend.
That's a hard one for who your favorite one is, because I don't think Nichelle Nichols is going to probably be my favorite because of how sweet she was. Really, I mean, hands down. My least favorite, man, and here's my brain fart again because nobody likes him, I think. I don't know. He played Wesley Crusher on Star Trek. He was my least favorite.
Will Wheaton.
Yeah, Will Wheaton. I know he's a germophobic and all that, but man, he really doesn't hide it because he just kind of snubs you off when you come up and you get excited. And then at first he's like, oh, hi. And then you start looking at his pictures. And then I picked out his old Star Trek one when he was Wesley Crusher. That's what I grew up with. I grew up with him. And he didn't seem very thrilled that I picked that one. I think he was more interested in selling his newer TV series stuff that he's like The Big Bang Theory and all that stuff. And I mean, they're cool, but for me, it was Star Trek. So yeah, and then when he did shake our hand, but it was very limp because he didn't want to, and we weren't even away from the desk when he started putting on the hand sanitizer. Like he was just like, oh, gross. Like, wow, okay, I'm sorry. You could have said you didn't shake hands.
Right. I would think being somebody that has germophobia and stuff, they would actually like say like, look, I don't do handshakes, like something like that. That would be more pleasant.
Hang a sign.
So nasty. Why do we just?
That's why Howie Mandel does still talk.
So, like, he wasn't, like, out rude, but he wasn't very friendly either, if you get what I mean. So, I was like, well, he'd be my least favorite person that I met.
Oh, yeah, there was a question. My bad.
For me, my favorite would have to be Butch Patrick, just because he was so kind. And then my least favorite.
I just figured out my favorite.
Difficult, too, because it's like, I hate to say this, but I think I already mentioned my least favorite was the Heather Donahue from Blair Witch. Honestly, those are just because of how how snotty she was being towards everybody asking for filmmaking tips, or just generally having a conversation with her. Just very, she thought she was a lot bigger than she was, like ego-wise, you know. But other than that, I can't really think of anybody else, because it wasn't me that wanted to meet Kristen, and it was my friend. I would have told her to go pound sand, but she didn't. She wanted me to stand in line with her because I don't play that game. So I'd be like, no. But yeah, that's how
I think for me, as far as the person, my favorite person to date, because I haven't got to work with a whole lot of big names yet, but my favorite person so far would be Linnea Quigley. Like she's like the biggest sweetheart on set. Like she's so kind and she's so nice and she's so patient too, working with you. She's so sweet.
Yeah, I was about to ask what it's like working with her, because I met her like a couple times, and it's just, you know, great and fun, and you can tell she loves what she does. And you know, I feel like she would be like the perfect person for upcoming actors and actresses to work with, simply because like you can tell, like even on her social media, how she is to her fans and stuff like that. It's like she doesn't have a big head on her shoulders. She doesn't let it get to her head.
Exactly.
And, like she seems to be like the perfect mentor for anybody. Even if you were nervous on set and it's your first time, and I found out that I was working with her, I'd probably just chill out right then and there. You know,
Dee Wallace is also really cool. Talking to her, she actually gave me. I told her how I was doing some of the independent films and stuff like that. She was like very kind, and she was giving me pointers and tips of, you know, make sure you don't let people walk all over you, because it's that can happen so easy on smaller budgets. You know, she said always make sure you know your worth. And the gal from Superman 2 that played man, she's awesome. I can't remember her name. She played the bad girl, one of the one villains of the trio. Ursula, I believe, was the name. And then, but I actually brought a movie up for her to sign, and it was a werewolf movie, Strippers versus Werewolves. If you haven't seen that, you should really watch it. It's actually freaking hilarious.
Maybe we should.
I've seen Zombies versus Strippers.
Yeah, I've seen that one too. But I brought it up for her to sign, and she takes one look at it and she goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe you have this movie." She told me this awesome story and about how when they were on set and stuff, like everybody was cool, and she's seen all these girls that were coming as the dancers and stuff, and how hopeful they were for being first-time actors. They were so sweet and all that, and how innocent they were when they're first starting roles, right? Well, there was all these contracts out. Well, when they were done filming and done wrapped up, the guy pretty much bailed on everybody, didn't want to pay nobody. Well, the one thing he forgot was she's SAG. And once you sign a SAG contract, you don't pay them, they go after you. So she ended up getting her money, but the other girls didn't. She felt so bad for them. So it happened. And that's what I was telling you.
I think he's outside.
That's like, I think that's why it's so intimidating for up and coming actors and actresses, though, because you've got like people, like you said, like if they will walk all over you if they know that they could. And I think that goes with any profession, to be honest with you, especially being the younger generation coming up. They're all like everybody has like this bad rap, towards you don't know yet, you might be missing out on your prize-winning actor and actress because you want to have a bad attitude.
It's so sad too, because like I said, and it's really hard to judge who's good, especially when they bring on a named actor. You think, this is a really legit movie.
The Beetle Bear or the
doing that special. So it's really sad.
And like that's why like when I see a lot of the people on Twitter posting about, we've got movie roles and stuff like that. Some of them, like when you go and even look, it's so easy to find on Twitter, though, the ones that are not legit. Simply because the rest of their Twitter page is some questionable content. And it's like, that's not a role for a horror movie, ladies. Please do not. It's just.
Yeah. My favorite person to meet was Evan Peters.
Well, that I remember.
Oh yeah, I have his handwriting tattooed on my. If I could. There.
That's awesome.
He happened to write my favorite word that I plan to get tattooed anyway, and I was thinking about, like, I figured I would just get his autograph because I didn't know what he was going to write before he wrote it. So he ended up writing a little message to help my anxiety, and he was super chill, calmest vibes, so my level, gave me a piggyback ride.
He did.
And I started to ask him how would I go about getting him like casted if I wrote a role for him, and he said you're gonna write me a letter, right? Because I was like, yeah, I have like so much to say to you and I don't want to have time. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write you one and bring it to you tomorrow. And he said, okay, but put your phone number and email on it. And I'm still in shock. I never changed my phone number ever since. This was like 2014. I know I'm not expecting anything, especially since like that stuff's done through like an agent and whatnot, which I have talked to Mercy, don't you know Jennifer Lynn Ward? Did we talk? Yeah, Warren. Yeah, we try to get her. We'll get her eventually probably, but no, I messaged her on Facebook because we met at a con. We talk a little bit now and then. She started getting me on the track to getting his agent, but that was a long time ago. I got nothing going on now, but one day I really hope.
I met her at a convention and she was telling me how wild it was to work with Kathy Bates, and I was like, I can only imagine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh man, that would be wild.
Like she said she was the nicest person, but she also knows like not to have people like storm over newbies, so like she would like protect all the newbies there, and she's like, darling, that's not what you do. If you're not ready, you're not ready. And she would like yell at the people making American Horror Story, like, no, you're gonna give them more time to learn their lines, blah blah blah. Like she was the
hell yeah.
And I was like, how are you gonna say no to Kathy Bates? Like,
yeah.
Like, you don't know, like she might actually be a little crazy. So.
That wasn't acting in misery.
Like, but
he was rude to the catering people, so she actually did that to his ankles.
But,
my goodness.
Sorry, I'm gonna go be weird somewhere else now.
They haven't even seen. This is the disembodied voice, everyone.
Am I in frame now?
A little bit.
Hi. I'm gonna go be weird somewhere else. Y'all have fun.
That's Jason, the roommate, and you can find him on what, YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube.
Remember, I wrote a shampoo commercial for him.
Wait, what? Wait, this is familiar. Oh yeah, shampoo for bald people.
Yeah. I don't know why. I was overtired that day. I was feeling I don't know. But I remember Jen was telling me that Kathy would just flip Ryan Murphy off every time he would be super demanding, and she was like, fine, I'll take my time, and like she'll slowly eat her lunch just because she's like, I'm not gonna take it. Because it was like really hot in the costumes that they had to be. Like, and I can't imagine because they had the old timey clothes on. So like,
oh yeah, and in New Orleans, probably in summer.
So like, I couldn't imagine how hot that was. So I'm like, oh.
I taught John Carroll Lynch to use emojis or something on Messenger.
I'm trying to see if we have any more questions pop up. I don't know how long you ladies have available, and I don't want to take up too much time.
I have infinite time, but also infinite spinal pain.
We don't want that. Let me see here. Because I know it's around the time we usually wind on down. So if anybody has anything else, I know people have been sending me stuff. I don't know if
when
course
is
all the dogs are gonna go
when
off.
is Nicolas Cage calling?
I don't know. He hasn't messaged. Normally he's in the comments, so I don't know if he's having trouble. Twitter. I don't want to go on Twitter Spaces now. Okay.
Where did you see the comments?
I have people texting me on different things. So
why don't they talk in the chat?
Because sometimes apparently YouTube isn't letting their comment go through and show up for us. So they find me elsewhere and my phone goes off and I go ahead and look.
Why does the technology hate us?
What? Okay. Worst makeup you've experienced in a movie, Dylan?
Gosh, the worst makeup. Probably when I did, not on me, but it would probably be the people around me. Their worst makeup that was done was for Zombie Rampage 2. And that is because we had to match the makeup up, match it from some 1990s footage that Todd Sheets had done, because they wanted a sequel to his first Zombie Rampage.
Right.
And he had started to make the second one, and then something happened to where he couldn't finish making the movie. And the people who were interested in the sequel, for years they've been hounding him, when can you get this? Can you still do it? We're still interested. He's like, well, I don't have these actors anymore. So he ended up rewriting it a bit, and then somehow he was able to, we redid the whole thing, and then we even used the same camera that he had used back then as well. And he was able to slice and mix the old footage with the new footage. So that was probably like the worst makeup that I've seen put on. Just because
somebody said your fingernails in Bonehill Road.
Oh, the ones that grew or the ones I ended up with. There was two different Okay, so there was two different nails. And one was real thick. The end result of the nails were really super thick. And then, but the ones they had growing out were thin. And then we had the one that Joe Castro also did for my fingers and coming out. So 3 different types that we used for that nail growth. And I think the most interesting story, though, is the nails, because when it came to the final product and with those big nails on, the makeup lady who was putting them on me, she couldn't find the nail glue.
Oh, no.
So she ended up using super glue.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and this was like on a Wednesday or Thursday night we were filming, and these nails were super long and thick, and they weren't coming off. And I tried everything, because we were trying to salvage them, because I was like, if you can get them off, because they came all the way from France or something like that, or they came from overseas somewhere where he had ordered them from. So we were trying to salvage them. And by the time Sunday came around, I was like, Todd, they're not coming off. I'm trying everything. And finally, he's like, I'm going dark. Give me 1 minute, guys.
Okay.
Okay, that's not working. I may lose you. My camera's dying.
Okay, bye, just in case.
Okay, so yeah, bye guys. So we use acetone. We finally ended up getting regular acetone to get the nails off, and I slowly chipped away at it to where I was actually able to get them on. Because Todd was like, your health is more important. Don't stress over these nails. Get them any way you can, because he knew I had to be at work the next day, and I worked on a computer at the car lot. So he's like, just get them off. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did everything I could, but in the end, I actually saved them. I think there was only one that I had to chip around at first, trying to experiment getting them off. But I ended up taking a Q-tip and just letting it drip, and then taking a cuticle cutter and just slowly going back and forth in the nail. And yeah, for the life of me, I don't understand why she used super glue to put the fingernails on. I was like, okay, that's weird.
I don't know either. That would be like the last thing to go through my mind. I'd be like, what other glues do we have that's not gonna?
Yeah. Horribly maimed the actress. The disembodied voice just bought some super glue for a wound of his. He said it's a redneck thing.
Ah, yay! Thank you, honey. Hope you saved the day.
But let's see what else.
And my husband, yeah. Speaking of saving the day, my husband's the one that thought about using the acetone. So
wow, that's actually really smart.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so he got me a battery pack. Yay,
another question was there a director or fellow co-actress that was super hard to work with, and how do you deal with that on set?
Let's see here. really had anybody that was difficult to work with. I'm trying to think back. No, so far, I'm lucky, knock on wood. I've been able to get along with just about anybody on set. I think the only person that was kind of off key would be after, behind the scenes, is because she was very adamant about pushing down being vegan. Like, she was so passionate, which is fine. But because I know Linnea, she's very vegan, but she wasn't very aggressive about it at all.
No.
But this other gal, she was very aggressive, very pushy. And I'm just like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Okay, but you can drop it. You said your piece. I mean, let's go on. I think that was the only downside I've had from working with anybody.
I would think it'd be like any other job, working with somebody you don't like only talk to them if you have to, and only about the job, I would think.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we tried getting along, but we just didn't click. Not everybody's gonna click.
Personalities clash all the time. There's no hard feelings. It's just a personality clash, nothing more. It's not like anybody wishes anything
she's
bad.
A great person. It's all around. She's a great person. We just don't click. Yeah. It doesn't mean she's a bad person.
Another one. What is a dream role of yours that you would like to play?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard. A dream role. A dream role, I'm not really sure if I really have like this big, huge dream role, just because I love acting altogether. But I think maybe working alongside Anna Faris in another comedy or horror movie of some type. I think that would be so much fun.
That sounds so
I think you would fit with that too. Like, I think that would be perfect. I'd be like, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah. Because she did really good in those ones that she did, and I'm just like, I mean, even though she went on and did House Bunny, which she freaking killed that too, in my opinion. But doing the spoofs that she did from Screams and all those other movies, just like
Scary Movie.
Yeah, Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Scary Movie number 4 is actually my favorite of all of them.
See, the Scary Movies, I could see have sequels because they're funny and they're picking on everything.
Yeah, and they have more and more material to go off of.
The spoof movies, I could see them making never-ending sequels. It's just the actual movies themselves. It's kind of like new.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. What else? People are texting me. I'm not trying to be rude here. I'm just trying to read the.
Or maybe even a super villain. I love playing a villain. I think I have more fun doing a villain side than, because like I said, when I did the Clownado, and I wasn't, like I said, not a hero, but one of the heroes. But that was a little more difficult to make it believable. I think I do better as a villain, making it believable. Like we finally got TNT Jackson released on Tubi, and that's where I played the redheaded villain in that one. And that was a lot more fun to do. Even though I would like to be a good hero if I can ever get portrayed very well. I'd love to play an awesome hero in something, because that's a good challenge for an actor, is being able to pull off. But sometimes you just have to go with what's better, what you're good at. So, and I think being a villain, I'm pretty good at doing.
Yo, I would love something like Black Swan for me. Psychological horror and fantasy elements.
Weird. For me, it would probably have to be a psychological horror too. But I would probably, like you said, have to be the villain, just because every day I'm a nice person or a kind person. So it would be nice to like get some of that anger out in a way that's like harmless. Like, because sometimes helping people can put a lot of stress on you. So to play the villain, I think I could. It's like a switch. So it would be a challenge for me, and I like challenges. I wouldn't like, for me, playing superhero would be kind of like easy, because in my everyday life, I'm it's part of my thing. I want to help everything and all that kind of stuff. That's why I even built Desdemona Productions, to help indie horror and stuff like that. So like, to play a villain would be really interesting, because I think I would be good at it, and also because like for some reason when I was a kid, my grandma always said I reminded her of like Bette Davis and stuff like that. and like she was creepy with her eyes and stuff like that. And so whenever I think of a villain, for some reason I think of her, and I feel like I can do it really well.
You know what though, if I know Mel Brooks is up there in age, he's 90 and all that stuff, but if he were to do another spoof on a horror movie, I would absolutely love to be a part of that. That is actually would be a dream role, I think. That would
That's
be
perfect for you.
See, he needs to get me and Anna Faris together on a new spoof.
Guys, like we need to start pushing for that. I'm like,
let's petition this.
Like, let's just do this. Because like, I mean, yeah, he's 90, but like he's good at what he does, and it comes, like look how timeless his career has been. Mm-hmm. So
yep,
can't pick on that.
My grandma used to sweep the patio during hurricanes. Like, age doesn't always matter.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Although that's not smart at any age. Don't follow that example. But
we don't have angry water storms up here. We have ice storms. So don't sweep your storm during an ice storm either. Or don't sweep your porch during an ice storm either, because you'll slip. So.
And don't forget to salt your blinker.
That's right. Someone's asking all of us, what is our favorite actor or actress that has passed on? Like from the old times. I can answer this right away, and it's Vincent Price. Simply because of his voice, the way that he did things, the way that he pulled everything in, even in his non-horror stuff, the way he pulled the story. Like, I feel like I could have learned like a lot of stuff from him. Him,
and I think for me it'd be Bela Lugosi. Like, just being able to put on different villains of the mask, and he embodied all those characters. Like, he is amazing for the time that they were in. I thought he's always fun to watch for me.
I like his facial expressions too.
Yes.
When he says the words and like his expressions, and he brings it in, and I'm all like, yeah. What about you, Reverie?
I'm thinking.
You're thinking?
Yeah.
I just feel like, could you imagine being able to talk to both Vincent and Bella and just to ask questions? Like, that would just be phenomenal getting advice from them. Like, that would be such an interesting conversation, I would think, because they're two great actors in their own way and have different experience, yet they both had that pull that I feel like we don't see a lot of, but I'm hoping that we get back to that, and I see a lot of, when I watch some independent horror, I see some of that coming back with like actors and actresses, and that would be nice, because honestly, I can't really think of any like modern day icons. I would be like,
well, I have to say, as far as favorite actor go, when I was growing up, even though it's not really horror related, it would have to be Patrick Swayze. He was one of my favorite actors growing up, so he's one I really miss seeing in the limelight.
Yeah, but I can't. Non-horror wise would be interesting too. I haven't really thought about that one.
And then Robert Englund he'll always be my favorite, but he's not passed yet, so.
That would have been mine, but thank God.
He's still number one.
Have you watched Strangeland that came out in like the 90s? And he's in there. And it's about like the girls that they meet like this guy online. It turns out like he's a predator, Captain Howdy, and he keeps them in like basements and stuff and tortures them. And Robert's in there, and there's a silly scene. I've never expected to see him in his tighty whities, and it was very interesting. And he's like just sitting there dancing, and I'm like, oh my God. Like this, I was not expecting this. That was the most horrific part of the movie too. I'm like, wow.
It sounds familiar. I might have seen that, but I don't remember. So I'm gonna have to go back and see if I've seen that one. But
very
I'm
good.
not sure.
Well, Dee Snider made it, but it was really, really good. And I remember renting it from our movie shop when it first came out. And I was really young, and I was like, I'm gonna watch this. And it was when everybody started getting computers too. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be really like, it's kind of like true horror, like it's stuff that could happen. So it's there, but it's just seeing Robert do that. I was like, this is weird, Freddie. Please put your pants on. But like that, it goes to show he's really good at being a creepy guy, and my garbage man looks exactly like him, so it looks like he collects my trash every Friday. It's very bizarre. I'm just like, okay. But yeah, that one I feel like that's what I think too. When they make horror movies based off of real life situations, it's funny because like those are the ones people are like, oh, I can't watch that. I'm like, why? Is it too real for you? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, good. Like,
I'm so glad that Tobin Bell is still alive.
Me too. I know what happened, but I'm glad too.
No, they're talking about dead actors that they miss seeing, and they were talking about like old classic ones, and then Dylan said it would be Robert Englund, but he's still alive, and that was going to be my choice too. And then I thought about how old Tobin Bell is. That was Mercy's answer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely Vincent Price. I've actually been called the female Vincent Price before.
You said we both did. Are you sure it wasn't just you?
No, it was both of us. But
okay.
Like
Say so.
It was interesting because it was me. Like I've been called that before when I started this channel, and then when you joined in, they're like, "Wow, there's two of them. There's two female Vincent Prices," and it's like that is like the biggest honor to me. So like when people say that, it's like I know I'm doing my stuff right, even though it doesn't feel like it. Because sometimes we're doing this stuff. We're on camera, and of course, I'm sure Dylan, with movies, you feel this too. Sometimes you're just like, man, did I really do my best in that? Like sometimes that little self-doubt comes in, and then like you get to hear like, people asking you questions or being like, man, I saw that movie, it was really, really good. Or you see the reviews and you're like, wow, it's like I've done this, and I mean a lot of people are like, aren't you discouraged, that sometimes like your lives like get a little audience? I'm like, no, not at all, because the replays are there. Second and third, a lot of times people like to watch the replay first and then comment, and that brings more interaction because sometimes technical difficulties with lives happen. Like I've been told
pretty much always
stuff, so I just keep rocking and rolling, and you'll get there. If I let every little bit discourage me, then I wouldn't be doing anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so. What else did we have? Worst horror film or movie you think you would have to play a part in? Like, I guess that's what they wrote, but I'm guessing they're saying what is a movie you wouldn't want to be a part of?
For her or everyone?
Everybody.
I would never want to be part of a Serbian film.
Oh God! Yes! Oh my God! Yes! That's it. That just wins right there. That's it.
or and it's funny because when I first got into the horror genre, I didn't know there was such a sub level of horror. I didn't know that stuff existed until I met Todd Sheets. And even then, I didn't know about it. And so we went down to LA, and that's where I met Stephen Biro. And that's when I first got my first taste of these really weird stuff. Like, what? I didn't know. And then oh gosh, and he talked about the Serbian film, and then he talked about his one new film that he did. Oh gosh, and I'm sorry, Stephen, I forgot the name of it already because I really like it. It's got Jessica Cameron in it. It's an Exorcist type movie. Mm-hmm. Oh, I just told my daughter about this movie the other day. Now I'm forgetting the name of it again. Oh. But anyway, that one was what I could watch. It's very graphic. The FX in it's very well done. That I could handle, but this other stuff that he promotes through his underground stuff, oh man, I started looking up some of these other movies that were I'm like, okay, what are these movies? So I went through and saw parts and clips of Serbian film. I wish I had not done that. Then I went and saw parts and pieces of Silo. I wish I hadn't done that.
Familiar.
Another film called Dogtooth. Oh my God, no. I was like, okay, I can't handle this stuff.
Yeah, there's some of them I feel like go a little bit too far. Like I am someone like, obviously I like the spooky stuff, but like someone such as yourself not realizing it and just walking in, oh my gosh, I made the mistake of stumbling on that kind of stuff at a horror con.
I think I could probably be a part of one of the guinea pig series because they just do their niche is more of a how long can you survive while we tear your body apart, pretty much. So that one is not as really weird and gross, I think, as some of the other stuff I've seen. Like, when it comes to portraying eating your own feces, that's where I draw the line. No.
There's like this one film I saw at a horror convention. I forgot what the name of it was. I bought the DVD too at the time because I didn't get to finish. Like they have their viewing, like I don't know, like certain cons they have the viewings of the independent films or whatever. So I went and I only got to see half of it. And the first half was really good, but then I got called away because I was helping at the time. So I got called away and I was like, I'll just buy the DVD because I like the beginning of it.
Right.
Talk about weird. It starts off like it feels like a murder mystery, so you're paying attention and all this stuff. And then it just gets really weird. Like this chick gets obsessed with, like you said, eating your own crap and shit like that. I'm like, no. Why did I buy this? I'm not like that's why I don't even remember the name because I'm just like I can't even. Like,
you blocked it out of your memory for the sake of sanity.
It sucks because the first half of it. You're like, wow, you're rooting for this girl and you're rooting for this story and you want to find out who the murderer is. And then it's like, whoa, I really don't care now. Like, I don't even know how it ends. So I was like, this is getting a little bit too messed up. And I feel like they purposely make films like that just to see what kind of line they can push. Yeah. But, like, I also feel like there should be a line where it's like, please don't. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
You don't really have to push it that far. I don't think we do. Like,
I could never be in a water where I had to be. I'd be in a movie where I had to be underwater.
Oh yeah. I could probably do a little bit underwater, but nothing super prolonged. But I could give it a shot for sure to see how long I could do it. But another one I wouldn't do is a human centipede. That's just a big no.
Yeah.
That's a big no.
I felt so bad because the chicks that were in that movie were at the first horror convention that I went to, and the look of disappointment on their face for the fact that was the biggest movie that they were in at the time.
Oh.
And like they had a giant poster behind them, and like, you mean to tell me they couldn't just put a banner with our names? Like they were so embarrassed. So I just hung out with them. I hung out with them all day. We got some French fries together. I'm like, look, you know what? You guys are brave for being out here. Okay, think of it. I was like, it was a weird part you had, but guess what? You did it, and that's more so than anybody here. So
they did a very good job. Like their acting, it was freaking amazing. Like it was so believable the way it was. Now the second and third one wasn't so much fun to watch, but that first one, that was like, wow, that's just intense the way they did that.
That's another one that just deserved one because it was just intense enough. It was intense enough, but after a while, no. Like, that seems to be the theme of this stream. It's like, there's so many of them. Like, Saw movies, there's so many of them. We get it. But, like, I felt so bad for them because, like, instead of their names, though, like, everybody else had, like, their names and then a list of the movies. Them, it was just Human Centipede without their names. And I felt so bad because, like, I was like, these chicks are out here trying to get their name out there.
Yeah.
And I feel bad now because their names slipped my mind. But I hope they're doing well or whatever they decided to do. But I felt it was pretty odd, and I'm wondering if it was just like a marketing thing.
Right.
Because why else would everybody else have their name in the list and then them just have like Human Centipede in the back? I was like, but that's another one. Yeah, I couldn't be in that. I also couldn't be in any movie where my neck would get broken in a scene. I really cringe, or anything with my eyeball. Like I hate it when when I have to do body horror makeup for anything with the eyes or the jaw, it really messes with me. So like anything above the head and the neck, like down here, I don't care. Like I can make guts come out, I can do whatever. But anything up here, like when I have to like even wear like makeup near my eye, I like freak out. Like I don't even like putting my eyeliner on. Like it's just, if I ever need glasses or contacts in my lifetime, I'm screwed because I don't like putting anything near my eyes.
Oh, not even glasses?
I got a bump in my nose, so wearing glasses that kind of go like this.
Good thing you don't need them.
Well, going back on the lines of the makeup and stuff, when somebody had asked earlier about the worst makeup and stuff, now on me, I wouldn't say it's really the worst makeup, but it did scare me in the very beginning because for the role for Dreaming Purple Neon that I did, I was the Queen, Abaddon, and he told me, he said my character is going to be this beautiful, gorgeous queen demon. I'm like, okay, cool, I can do that. So when I went in for makeup, the gal that was in front of me, she was one of the minions, I guess, she was one of my minions. I just didn't know what her role was yet. But I seen her come out and she's got this mossy stuff all over her face, all down her body, and we're topless. We have, little netted skirts around because we're supposed to be naked. And she had these nipple horns on. And that's how we got around the clause for nudity, because there was a no nudity clause.
Did you say
in the city?
Did you say nipple horns?
I did.
Yeah.
Nipple horns.
Okay, just checking.
And that was done, like, I can't remember the name of the city. I wanted to say Bonner Springs, but I think it was right outside of Bonner Springs or something like that in Missouri. But there was a no nudity clause. So the way they got, because originally it was just going to be topless. So he came up with this idea for pasties and just make them nipple horns instead. And that's how we got around being topless walking around for that to be filmed. And when I seen her come out looking so gross and stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, this wasn't what I was told I was gonna be doing. I'm like, and we went down to talk to Todd. I was like, what is this makeup stuff? He goes, oh, no, don't worry about it. Yes, you're gonna have the nipple horns, but don't worry, just trust me on this, okay? You're still gonna be how I described you. And I was like, okay. So I was like, and my husband was like, and this is like maybe the second time I worked with Todd at the time. And I hadn't really got to know him yet. And, I was still kind of on the fence, still new at this stuff. Because I had only just done the Crawler and it was the Sleepless Nights anthologies with them. It was the Crawler and It Hits the Fan. And that was part of the Sleepless Nights. So I just started getting to know him. I'm like, okay. And my husband's like, if you don't want to walk away anytime. I was like, I know, I'm going to give it a shot. I could always just leave if I don't like it. So I went in there. I let the gal do the job. She did my makeup, my face. She was curling my hair, and then she put on the pasties and nipple horns. And I'm just watching her go to town, making it. And I'm like, oh god. So she get the netting and the pantyhose on the netting and stuff like that. And finally, when everything was done, I looked in the mirror. I'm like, oh wow. Okay, I like this. And it was actually a lot better than I had first imagined when I seen the first peep girls walking out. I'm just like,
yeah, because especially if you're not told, and then you see this stuff come out, you're just like, ooh. But then that means the makeup artist is doing her job then, because
she did a fantastic job.
A lot of people ask me, they're just like, oh my god, when it comes to doing makeup on body parts, we actually get so used to being around bodies, it's not a thing, it's not a worry. And a lot of people are like, oh well, I'm not this size. I'm like, we're not looking at you, we're just putting makeup on you, and you get so desensitized to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? At first it's awkward as somebody new doing makeup on somebody, and like you said, having to put the makeup there and everything like that. But after a while though, it's kind of just you get so desensitized that you're like, I'm here to do makeup, I'm here to make the actor and actress comfortable. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable in the situation. Right. And I feel like one of the things that when we were talking about safety things, the artists will literally want you to be safe. And if you have one that is being really creepy, you will know it, because none of us are gonna be all like, oh yeah, by the way, we just want to randomly body paint. No. I had one of the followers of the show, she's like, I had a makeup artist tell me that I have to get in my underwear so they could do a zombie makeup. I'm like, well, where's the zombie makeup? Because I'm like, if it's a elsewhere and you're gonna be maybe. And she told me that it's supposed to just be from shoulder up. I'm like, you don't need to get into your underwear for that. No. I was like, what was the reason that they're telling you have to get in your underwear? And she's like, oh, so it doesn't mess up my clothes. I'm like, well, that's what a smock is for. Yeah. So they can totally I was like, this artist is not being professional, and whoever it is, you got to either turn him in or not work with this person anymore if you don't feel comfortable turning in, because you don't know who people work with, so and so. So it gets kind of weird, especially being somebody new. Yeah. And it was for a photo shoot promo she was hired for. She's one of my model friends, and I was like, girl, trust me, like they don't need you to get in your underwear for that. This guy is trying to see you inappropriately and probably try more, like there's no, like I have done makeups like that all the time, and it's like, okay, at most I would say wear a tank top so you could pull the straps down while I do the makeup, and then you could tie the smock around and protect everything else, and then that way everything's done. Or you can have them wear a strapless shirt to begin with, and it can be a full shirt. There's no reason to make anybody get weird.
The only reason that would be called for is if they were doing a full body makeup. Yeah.
And even so, that would be something that she was told about beforehand and could consent to. So consent is a big thing, ladies and gents, when you're looking for these. And especially if you do get a wackadoodle, because obviously even the good guys, can't vet everybody. So unfortunately, some people do slip through the cracks. You'll know when somebody's being weird.
Or a labradoodle.
Yes, or a labradoodle. That's like weird. Let me see if there's anything else, because I know it's getting late, and I'm sure I don't want to take up too much time here. Let me see here. Oh, we got some text messages here. How do you learn to scream well without hurting your throat?
Okay, so that one actually comes pretty natural, and I don't know how I'm able to do that. I've been doing that since I was a kid. And my mom, in fact, she always called me her little scream queen, even though I really didn't know what a scream queen was for the longest time, because we weren't allowed to watch the horror movies and stuff like that, nothing graphic. Some Halloween movies once in a while, like family movies type stuff, should let us watch growing up. But she was very, very particular about what we watched growing up. She wouldn't even let us watch Mermaid, not the Little Mermaid, but whatever that it's called, Mermaids or something like that with Cher, I think. Yeah. Like she wouldn't even watch stuff like that. So she was very particular about what we watched growing up. So I really didn't know what a scream queen really was until I met Linnea, and so I went through and I started checking up and watching, all this stuff that she was in. I was like, oh, I've seen Return of the Living Dead, or whatever it was. Sorry, I'm getting excited now. I'm like, I've seen that one. I didn't know that was her in there. I didn't know she was trash, but I remember seeing it, and I remember watching it when my parents had gone to bed, because we weren't allowed to watch stuff. So I'd wait for them to go to bed, go downstairs and see what was on TV, and they would have USA Up All Night and stuff like that. So I would get to watch some of the icky zombie movies. Zombie movies were my least favorite. They always give me nightmares, especially when I was a kid. God, and it's those nightmares where, you're running so fast, but you can't get away, even though because your legs are like cement.
Yeah.
So, and I, now that I'm older, I always laugh at it. So, I was actually just training to be like the future Flash. I was running so fast, it just felt like I wasn't moving. Because the zombies never caught up with me, even though I couldn't move.
See, it was really interesting for me because, I was able to watch, the original Night of the Living Dead because it really wasn't gory and stuff like that. And then I stumbled upon my dad's Evil Dead tape when I was younger. And I started watching that, and I was like, this is cool. And he's just like, well, it was found. I can't take it back now. But I feel like growing up with horror, though, I kind of knew, it's not reality. So for me, my nightmares actually came from, Disney movies like Cinderella. I was always terrified of having a nasty stepmother and nasty step siblings for some reason, or stuff like that. That's where my nightmare. I don't know why, but I was it was completely reversed from everybody else, because I was why am I scared of this? This is stupid to be scared of. That's where my nightmares would come from. I'm like, do I really have to fight this lady? I'm like, why? I don't want to have to fight this lady. I gotta send my talking birds after her. She's driving it's but like as far as the horror stuff, it never really did anything, and everyone was like, "What is wrong with you?" And then when I got older, I took on The Lost Boys because I liked the vampire makeup in that, and I wore out my dad's tape of that too. So, and there is a second and third of that one too. Please do not watch those. Oh my god, they're bad.
It's the diaphragm.
The second one, yes, it is the diaphragm.
That's the answer to the question. It's the diaphragm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I will have to say, when I did Bonehill Road, when I was getting attacked from one of the werewolves through the door, when he was pulling me up on the table, that I actually you could tell when I tried talking, after I'd gotten bit, you can tell that I was losing my voice at that point. And my poor director, he's like, "Can you turn the pitch down?" I was like, "I can't." I was trying so hard to talk normally, but I actually couldn't because I was screaming so much during that one particular scene that was probably the only time I actually did any damage to my voice box at that time. And that was, So yeah, that was the one and only time so far that I had any issues screaming.
I feel like you get like so into the zone that the real scream comes out, because like think about it, in a real situation, you're not thinking about where your scream's coming from. Like if something's coming after you, you're not gonna be like, okay, scream from your diaphragm. You know, like, I mean, like, so like you kind of got into the role there, and then it let it out, and then like, so it happened. Like
the first time Todd and Amanda Payton had experienced my very first scream with them was when we were filming The Crawler, and I had to get onto the floor, and I just had to yell out a big scream. They said, "Just go as big as you can." I was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Yeah." My husband already knew because I'd done a couple of Renaissance Festival Phantom's Feast before I started working with them. So my husband knew what they were in for, and he's just sitting back like this, right? And I belted it out, and Todd was like, "Whoa!" So we're gonna do this again, and I'm gonna turn my sound down. The same thing happened to Brad when I went down to do Backwards Bubba, and we were in the car scene. He said, and I go, "Do you want me to scream?" Because it said in the script that's where I'm supposed to scream. And he's like, "Yeah, go ahead and scream." I was like, "Okay, just so you know, I'm really loud." He's like, "Okay, that's good. Go for it." So, okay, so I let out my scream. Not only did I freak out the poor guy in the mask, but poor Brad was like, "Oh, whoa!" Like he pulled my ears out.
And it's so funny because I feel like because from your talking voice and just your demeanor, you don't come across as somebody that produce such a loud scream. So when that happens, they're like, "Okay, yeah, we know you can scream loud," and it's like, no, you don't get it. There's a reason I put on the disclaimer, folks. Like, there's a reason for it. Like, and it's always us more like soft-spoken ones where it's just like, whoa, we can just let it rip. Like, there's tons of times like where I live, I have like woods and stuff. So like when I was a kid, I would like practice weird screams and doing stuff. And the neighbor one time thought that I was actually getting hurt, and I was like, no. So my parents were like, "You can't go scream in the woods anymore because people think that you're being attacked." And I was like, "Okay, I won't do it," which I stopped doing it. But like now as I'm older, they're like, she's working on some horror shit again. They can kind of tell the difference. So I'm like, okay, but it's just funny because like, they don't expect it because I'm such a quiet person. So it's like, not really coming out of you. And I'm like, yes. Like,
I love screaming. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love it.
I love seeing the reactions of people when it happens.
Yeah, last year for Halloween, during the Halloween season, I went to a friend's haunted house that he had put together, and I went in there and I was like, "Hey, I'm here, let's go through." And they were so excited that I got to show up for their little house stuff. And I went through it, and it was fun. They did a great little show that they put on. It was awesome. And then I get outside, and my husband was like, you should let out a scream." I was like, "Hey, it's Halloween. I should." So as we were behind the house, because we go in through the front and then we exit to the back of the house. So before I go around front, I just let out the biggest scream I could get. And the next thing you know, everybody's come running out of the house going, "Oh my God, was that you?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, and then my friend was like, "I'm so glad I finally got to hear your scream." So that was pretty cool watching everybody's reaction.
Yes, especially when they don't know. I think it's also funny getting compliments from like the little old ladies in town. They're like, damn, that's a good scream. And I was like, yeah.
It's funny. It's so funny screaming in the theater too, because when I did the couple of theater shows last year, we did Amazon Spider God of Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that one, and my character had to scream, 2 or 3 times throughout different scenes of the show. And the first time I let out a scream, all the little kids in the front would jump. And I love that. And what I liked about that one was we actually had makeup or a costume gal that came in, and she put together the spider costume, like the legs and everything. And she used kind of like stilts, I would say. They were handheld, and she would use those to walk and wave her arms around and stuff like that. And it was pretty cool the way that they did that. That was a fun one. And just like in the Death by Chocolate, I had to do only one scream in that, but it was still a scream that I got to do, make everybody jump. And every time we did because I didn't do the screams during rehearsals, and Patricia Middleton, she knew my screams, and she's like, and I'd ask her towards the time it was ready for showtime, I go, are you ready for me to scream, or do you want me to wait till it gets closer? And she goes, oh, let's go ahead and wait till next week. And no, everybody else is, I'm like, why is she making her wait to scream? Like, and then so we get closer, and she's like, okay, well, we're ready for you to start screaming now. And the first time I built out the scream, these poor people forgot their lines.
That sounds like a awesome achievement too. Like, yeah, that's my power. Yeah.
Dude, they're like, oh. I remember their line. So that was fun.
Oh. Did Jason go to work?
Someone asked if any of us have been recognized in public for what we do, and was it a weird experience, like being recognized for anything that we do?
I've been
not randomly. I think someone recognized me just from Facebook, but I haven't really been recognized for anything I've done outside, just walking. So I think the only time I get recognized for anything is when I go to LA for one of our premieres that we do, and that's because they're going there to watch it. So that's the only time I get recognized for anything. But other than that, nah. The only time I get recognized is maybe through Facebook. Someone will send me a message, hey, I really liked you in especially when Bonehill Road came out. That had some crazy fans coming out that from all different likes of fandom. That was kind of cool. They had, just people who really loved werewolf movies to people who had these weird fetishes about werewolves.
Yep, there's always that crew, but they're usually harmless. They're usually harmless.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're fun. It was just caught me off guard, and I was like, oh, okay.
It's like, that's weird. Okay, cool. But they're usually pretty harmless.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I thought was so funny when they were the people who had the fetish fantasies for the werewolves is a lot of them were really upset that I didn't have a tail.
Right.
Oh yeah, the tail stuff. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
So when they watched it, they were critiquing. They're like, "How come I'm so mad? Like my snout didn't go out like they were expecting." Because I admit when he was doing the transformation, it was coming out like it was going to, but then it didn't. So Todd opted for more of a sexy type werewolf is what he was going for, because he wanted each werewolf to have their own persona.
No.
So I thought all the werewolves look different. And when I didn't get a tail, they're like, that's even more disappointing. She doesn't have a tail. It's like, okay. So we're hoping that when we go, if we get a chance to do a sequel, which it's in he's got a script for Bonehill Road 2. But it's whether we get funds for it or not to be able to do. But he wants to revisit my costume and put a little more into it to maybe help make the fans a little happier. So
I hope that it does get a sequel, because I think that's one that could do very well especially with the werewolf thing. So I really hope if there's any links or whatever that I can share around, I would be happy to do that.
As soon as I find out.
I don't know if he has anything set up now, or when he does, just please, tag me in anything like that, because I'm happy to share like anything, because I feel like that's the kind of stuff that horror fans really do enjoy, and being able to, you know, help that area is like basically what everybody loves to do, you know. It's like, man, I helped with that coming to life, you know, and it makes fans feel good, and then it makes you guys feel good, and you know, lets you guys come back, and it would be awesome to see what he has for a second.
I think it would be really good, because he told me his idea for the sequel. I think it would work very well. I really hope he gets to do it.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Because I think that one was so very well done. Like, I think that's the one that stood out the most. Now, my dude Chris, he's really hard to, with the indie films, it's really hard to keep his attention. But that one, he was like really impressed with the whole production and everything like that. So to see somebody who's not into horror as much as I am, be like, wait, because usually I'm usually watching, and he's on the side of me playing his video game, and for him to turn his head like that to start paying attention, it's kind of like, okay, you have a non-horror fan that's like to it as well. That's pretty good, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So one time
people either really love that movie or they really hate it, because a lot of the hardcore werewolf fans, they don't like the second story that's in there with the other antagonist, the serial killer guy. They don't like him. They like that's not a werewolf. I mean, that shouldn't be but we were trying to make it a different, you know, style. Like, they were upset because the werewolves didn't burst into the house right away. But what they didn't understand was that the werewolves were just toying with the people in the house. It was like playing with their food, is what we were trying to show.
And that's what I got from it, though. Like, I actually enjoyed that it didn't follow everything, because I'm not like, I like the werewolf movies mainly for the special effects aspect, but a lot of times I feel like the stories are all the same. Whereas with this one, like you said, I understood why they didn't barge in. I was like, yeah, they're doing what, like, any, you know, werewolves are smart. They want to toy with their food. They like the adrenaline. They like that. You know, I was like, this is a good take. And that's what stood out to me. So I saw that, and I was like, yeah, that's why it's not bad. Because the rest of them, it's all so predictable. They're going to barge in. They're going to tear people apart, blah, blah, blah. Okay, end credits. This was more like, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen first? Where are they going to come from? And I think it was really well done. So it was like, and it was perfectly paced. It wasn't to where it was like too fast or too slow either, you know. And a lot, I could see why like a lot of werewolf fans would be like, "Oh, that's not for me." It's because they're so used to the whole fast paced like stuff. But I like the build up. The build up is what helps. Like, I feel like grab attention. If you always know what's gonna happen, then it's kind of like why you're watching the movie. To me, anyway. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I think the one time I was recognized was in a grocery store, and it was from my YouTube. It was actually one of the viewers that was local, and I had no idea I had local viewers, because a lot of my viewers are spread out normally. And it was very odd, because I was singing to a box of rice at the time that this person approached me, because I was trying to remember my grocery list. And sometimes, like, I remember rhythms. That's just how my brain works. I was, like, singing my grocery list to myself. And so, of course, they come up to me when I got this box of rice, and I'm just, like, dancing and singing to it. And they're like, "Are you Mercy Desdemona?" I'm like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I am. Hi, how's it going?" And it was a very weird thing to me, because people don't normally approach me. So it was kind of weird to get to, especially locally, because it's not like there's a lot of horror stuff up here. Like, you know, I had 18 kids in my graduating class, and I was the only spooky babe. Like, you know, there was no other people really into it, or that I thought. So now seeing somebody like local be like, "Hey, I watch your stuff," I'm like, "Oh, hi." Like, it was
that's awesome.
But I think we are at the 2-hour and 22-minute mark. So I feel like we have done our show for the evening. Okay. We answered everybody's questions. We do have a lot of people that told me they're going to try to watch the replay because for some reason when they tried to watch the live, it would play and then it would buffer a lot. So I don't know what issue that is. So if there are any extra questions, I will screenshot them and tag you ladies in them if you want me to do that, and we can get them answered.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Dilynn for taking the time out to join us today. I hope you had fun.
Thank you.
I apologize
It was
for
my
the.
pleasure. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, gals.
I hope to have you guys. I hope to have you back soon, and I hope to hear more about Bonehill Road too. That'd be awesome.
I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping so.
Me too. Me too. Keep me posted on that. And thank you everybody for joining us in the comments. And if you watch the replay, can you let us know that you watched the replay just so we can judge where the technical difficulties is at, because we had technical difficulties before we hopped on. So I just want to make sure that's all straightened out. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.